Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me, as always, is my sidekick, Austin, the Day Ghost. And tonight, we're into our 21st Superhero Rewind commentary, so the show is old enough to drink now, and Austin and I are tonight tackling Batman Returns, a movie that I have done lots and lots of content on, and I kind of feel like I have exactly nothing else to add, but I will do my best in try to make it interesting. Austin has not talked about this with me before, so I'm sure he'll bring some interesting new stuff to the table. I tackled this a couple of years ago on the Off the Cuff Rewind series that I was doing before we went to commentaries, and so now we're starting over, and I'm redoing everything. I should say redoing, but I'm going back and doing new commentaries for as close to every superhero movie ever made as we can get. And so this was one that I didn't really expect to come up this early, but we did a poll, and I let Austin put any Batman movies he wanted to on the poll. This happened to be one of them, and it happened to win. And Austin, I'm not making fun of you about that.
No, I know. That's what I was going to say is I will apparently never live this down because the last, 2 weeks, every video ends with, yeah, we're doing Batman Returns again. Because Love was on a poll, and I was like, oh,
Well,
that'd be fun.
No, and I'm not. And I didn't know if you remembered how recently I did this. I'm not saying that to make fun of you, or because I'm really that irritated that we're having to talk about it again. I'm saying that because what I expected was all the comments would be like, "Didn't you just do this?" And so I feel like I had to get ahead of that.
I think people are like, yeah, Batman Returns.
Well, and apparently because it won the poll and by like a wide margin.
Yeah.
You know, we had Dark Knight Returns there. I threatened to do a scripted commentary on that movie like 8 years ago. Also, how is that movie as old as it is? But
That's crazy.
But I digress. So yeah, back to Batman Returns. This comes out, of course, in 1992 and is a movie that has been, honestly, over the years reappraised real hard. I think, like I hear a lot less negative about this. It's never been anything like my favorite Batman movie. I get incrementally more positive on it every time I talk about it, though. So my first rewind on this, my old, 10, 15 minute scripted rewind opened with "I don't want to hate Batman Returns." I think that was the video that I said that in, and I don't now if I did back then, and obviously it's still not what I wanted for an 89 sequel, and I think part of the reason and so I don't mean to say that the fans of this movie have really beaten me down into submission and now I like it because I feel like I'm supposed to, Austin. Every time I see it, I see a little more in it than I'm enjoying. I think my sensibilities over the years have changed a little bit, and I'm starting to appreciate the movie more for what Tim Burton wanted to do with it. It's still deeply flawed, don't get me wrong, and at the risk of repeating myself, I'll talk about some of that as we go tonight, but I will probably, for my part, focus a lot more on the things I'm seeing in it that are actually kind of fun and interesting and engaging, and I'll have a hard time not comparing it a lot to 89 because one of my big takeaways from this last watch, Austin, was just that, well, and I probably said this in that unscripted commentary review a couple of years ago, but there's still a lot of plot stuff that doesn't make a great deal of sense, and it's kind of not super character driven again, but it's at least about stuff. 89's kind of not about anything at the end of the day. Past that original Sam Hamm script, and this at least has some thematic stuff you can sink your
this
your
is
teeth
the reverse
into.
of 89, where you go back and you read the Sam Hamm script and it's way better than 89, and the finished movie is way better than the Sam Hamm script for Batman 2.
Yeah, that's true. And the big difference is they basically scrapped his script and only kept a couple of major kind of broad set pieces and ideas. And then with 89, it was a gutted version of his original script.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, Batman Returns has always just been more 89. I've never had this is a drastic turn into left field. I think both of these movies feel of a piece. I
That's
will.
interesting. I just kind of patently disagree with that, but we'll
I
talk
mean,
about it
that's
as
fine,
we'll,
but
we'll talk about it as we go. But I think that's and we'll talk about it. But I think that's an interesting perspective because Tim Burton feels that way about it. Like Burton comes into this and he says the only way I'm doing this movie is if the studio basically gives me carte blanche, which by the way they didn't do. Like they did a lot more so than with 89, but one of my biggest issues with this movie is I discovered maybe recently, I don't know if I've talked about this before, that was actually not Burton's fault at all, and I'll try to get in that. It was like a really, maybe dumb studio mandate. But anyway, he comes into this and goes, "Yeah, 89 was only really 50% my movie," and there's a direct quote from him where he says, "I was actually kind of I, I actually think a lot of 89 is boring, and I was only going to come in and do this my way and not have to make it like a Batman movie." And
well, and
so,
that's what I was like getting at. So I think on my viewing today, I've kind of like reappraised everything on where I stand with these, and I do think on this viewing, Returns has edged out 89 a little bit because, like I said, for me they've always been of a piece, and they're like that, like they're two of the same thing. Um, on my rewatch now, I think the production's a lot better. I think his directing's a lot better. All like the action's a lot better, and the story and writing of both movies is slop. So like, um, some of that stuff kind of edges Returns out for me.
well, and a lot of people have that. I mean, you're not alone.
Hmm.
Um, I certainly still can't and will never find myself saying that. I am sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of my problems with this come a lot like I can't really put at the feet as much at Tim Burton of Tim Burton, I should say, because he's not a dialogue guy, he's not a story guy, he's not a script guy. He just wants to put like ideas and feelings and characters on screen, and I don't know that he would have really seen much of a difference between the quality of the dialogue and storytelling between 89 and Returns. And it sounds like you don't either, but personally, I see 89 just in the way people talk in general as a lot more of a timeless kind of like old Hollywood feeling movie. And this is a lot more contemporary, and that's why I have a hard time with it as a sequel. So, looking at it as more of its own piece, the way I think Tim Burton would really like me to look at it, I can get a lot more enjoyment out of it that way. I have a really tough time with it as a sequel to 89.
Hmm. Yeah, I just don't have that. Like to me, it just feels like more of that. And I find 89 dated in the first place in a way that you don't. So like, I'm also coming in with that in mind too.
Yeah, and I mean, just different backgrounds and perspectives,
Hmm.
like that movie is, I mean, I've talked about that ad nauseum, but I mean, like, that movie is so much a part of my DNA. I'm very, very critical of it now, but I still feel like this thing, some of it is just like, occasional like pop culture references and things that like 89 didn't do, and just stuff that kind of and then even like recognizable music. Like I realized that the first movie had a whole Prince soundtrack, but it was at least all original. Like there's just things that remind me of the real world in this movie that 89 did not have at all.
Yeah, and I think I'm reversed because like we get music and stuff in Returns, but it's more in the background. While 89, you get like the museum scene where it stops and it's like, here is the Prince scene, and I'm
Yeah.
like, like it kind of hits me a little bit more because I'm like, oh. But I also don't like the soundtrack of that movie, so that's like a place where we're kind of different.
Yeah, and that is like foundational for me for music. I think to some
Mhm.
degree, both not that I'm a giant Prince fan or anything, because I'm not really outside of that soundtrack, but it was just always with me as a kid. So like it's hard to
Yeah, when
I
it's
was
one of
never
those things
critical
that's
of it.
really clashing with what Burden's doing, and obviously like you do have that here, but it's more in your
Yeah,
face in '89, I think. Um,
that is probably accurate, and I can't see it, but that is probably accurate. Real quick, let me realize these, or realize, let me read these super chats real quick, and then we'll start watching the movie, shall we? Makura499 says, you realize watching this with no snow on the ground will get you sent to superhero geek jail. It's not my fault. Austin put it on the
I'm
list,
in
and
Canada.
people.
There's 30 feet of snow just behind this wall. Thank you very much.
People on Patreon voted for this, so that's why
I'm
we're
enjoying
doing
a
it.
classic Canadian summer. The snow's gone down a little bit.
It's Christmas in May. That's exciting for you, Austin, and that's probably even with having to light torches in your backyard and do everything you can to lessen
Well,
it.
I always pour gasoline on the side of my wall to make a bat, and then I go light it up.
Oh, is that what you do? And then you get a big bat symbol in the shape, like the snow makes a shape of a bat symbol,
Exactly.
or does it make like the double daredevil symbol?
Both.
Oh, okay. You just keep changing it for like the time of year it is.
Yeah, because it would be boring if you did the same thing every day. You gotta switch it up a little bit.
See, I have to say time of year because apparently you have snow on the ground no matter what time of year it is.
Exactly. It just shifts in height.
I'll use this as an opportunity to just put in a quick plug real quick for Patreon. If you'd like to help us choose movies, we don't do this every time, but much of the time we do, to be part of the Rewind selection board, and it makes you a Rewind producer, where you get some other perks. Patreon.com/Geekvolution, $10 tier gets you access to that. Let me also read Tom's super chat real quick. $5 super chat. He says, "Is the you wouldn't hit a girl line supposed to be a callback to Joker's you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses line?" No, I would say not. I think that is reaching. Given that you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses is just a line already kind of in the lexicon. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's I want to say figure of speech. It's not a figure of speech, but it's like a thing people say. Like, oh, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses. Like.
You should have pulled out glasses and been like, "How could you? I'm a woman with glasses." And then he acid attacks her like 5 seconds later. It's crazy.
And then Tom says, "Great show tonight." Well,
we don't know yet.
Let's make it to see how great it is. But thank you, I appreciate
now we
it.
purposefully have to make this a bad show.
Yeah, let's work on that. No, I'm kidding. Okay, if you want to watch the show with us, ring it up to timestamp 0. Get ready to press play. When I say now, the movie is still, right now anyway, available on HBO Max here in the States. That's how I am watching it. Of course, I've got discs, but with my setup right now, it's easier to do it that way. So, away we go. Is everybody ready? Austin, are you ready?
And here we go.
We're just going to reference every other Batman movie besides this one. Okay.
Which is unfair. This is a quotable movie, too. But
it
let's
is.
Go.
And again, you're going to fight me. I don't care. I think 89 is more quotable.
I mean, it probably is, but this is the one I quote the most because without fail, every time I enter a room that no one else is in, I say, "Honey, I'm home. Oh, that's right. I'm not married." So I probably quote this one more technically because of that.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I mean, and I'm not saying it's not quotable. There's certainly stuff. I don't think I go to this one a ton, but on this watch, there were things that I found myself going, I mean, I should say that in various situations. The one that Jason grabbed onto that he's been saying for the last couple of days is "Go to heaven."
I also quote the
I like that
"Played
one.
the stinking city like a harp from hell."
You know what? I'm wrong because I do say that occasionally, and also, why does somebody always bring tomatoes and what is it?
Oh, tomatoes and
We'll see when we get there. I always mess this up, but it's tomatoes and something to a speech.
I also
is it lettuce?
I also can quote the whole scene word for word where Walken pushes Celine out the window. Because it's really funny.
It is really funny.
Especially the way he's like, ah. But anyways.
Actually, it's a lot like that. It's exactly like that. All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. So immediately I'm just thinking of things I've said 100,000 times and trying to figure out how to mix this up a little bit. This will likely be the last time we do really any material on this movie. We've talked about it so much, but I mean, I don't know. You never know.
Never say never.
You never know. So we always talk about, of course, that we've got a fun cameo with Pee Wee Herman here, and I see. I'm hesitating saying whether I knew certain things before or not. I don't remember knowing this, Austin, but apparently, that was originally supposed to be Burgess Meredith.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Which is cool, and I wish that had happened. Nothing against Paul Rubens, because that's fun too as a cameo for people that he's worked with.
It also makes more sense because Burgess Meredith would be probably too old for an infant baby.
That's a good point. Yeah, he'd have to be like his grandfather that for some reason throws him out in the water, does the Moses thing. And of course, they've got to be drinking martinis because that's the go-to cliche
drink for
rich
assholes.
person drink. Yeah, rich asshole drink. Absolutely.
I love that in the Lego Batman 2 game when they built Gotham, they built out like that the zoo outline with like the globe and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's something I always think of with this.
I think it's kind of funny that I don't know if they like live close to the zoo or if they drove all the way to the zoo.
Yeah, I think this is just the one park, I guess, in Gotham.
Also, it's interesting that parents that hate their child enough to throw it in the river, they spent that much money on a really nice bassinet.
Well, I probably bought it beforehand.
Maybe so. But the stroller? Maybe they also bought. Well, I mean, they're super rich, so maybe they did.
Yeah, they got it for their baby shower.
So let me get a big point out of the way that I really wanted to talk about, if that's okay, Austin.
Yeah.
To kind of just set the stage for this. I've always really wrestled with, and one of the reasons I have a tough time with this movie, I've always kind of wrestled with the idea that tonally, the movie keeps kind of screaming in a lot of different places that the Penguin is supposed to be sympathetic. I'm supposed to feel bad for him, and he's so crass and vulgar, and I love the way the Batman logo folds out. That's such a cool choice.
Well, I don't know if anything in a Batman movie gets me as hyped as this title sequence. It's
really?
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know why the last 2 times I've watched it, it's been like, yeah.
Interesting.
Hell yeah.
It's really good. I love that it's obviously the same theme and orchestration as '89, but then it gets a lot creepier with the Penguin theme.
Well, I think what helps
the Penguin
is
theme
like,
is kind of genius.
It builds, and then it's like boom, and it just hits, and it's like, yeah, I'm ready for some Batman. Let's do it.
Yeah, and it really feels like we're not just doing the same thing over again, and we're building on it. So like it's still the same
it feels
version
of
Batman.
But it's not exactly the same.
I'm sorry, I just missed what you said because it got really loud in my headphones.
That's okay. I just said it feels of a piece, but it doesn't feel like they just repeated themselves.
No, and there are things. There are kind of connections to '89 I noticed this time that I hadn't really thought about before, but I don't feel like it's just cookie cutter repeating itself doing the same movie again. Again, especially because Tim Burton was not interested in that and was kind of afraid that that's what the studio would want him to do. So he pushed against that real hard. Like in a lot of ways, this is like an independent movie that he got Warner Brothers to put money behind, where he said, I'm going to make the movie I want to make, and I'm not interested in selling toys or making it for children or any of that, which backfired a little bit as far as the critical response went, and also like it probably didn't make as much money as it would have if it had just been kind of an '89 clone again. But
yeah,
what I respect, and I think what a lot of people
understood that.
Well, just real quick, what I was going to say is what I respect and what I think a lot of people really appreciated about this is that it was his unadulterated vision.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and I've never understood the reaction that this movie had that led to Forever, where like this is too dark, and
I
too
think with
violent.
respect, maybe you had to be there because when I saw this, it bothered me. I mean, it was pushing some envelopes that, especially like a superhero movie, of course, had not really done before. It feels real tame now, but
Hmm.
like
But like even as a kid, like when I have what like I guess Spider-Man and X-Men, which X-Men maybe to a degree pushes it a little bit forward, but not exactly. Like I don't know. Like I've always seen this movie as not especially like crazier than '89. I don't know.
I mean, you got the nose gushing blood. There's particular moments that I think really turned off specifically parents, and I
Hmm.
also don't think that it would have been as big of a deal, and you wouldn't have gotten that backlash if it hadn't been for again the merchandise aimed at children,
But
and
it's so
and all of
weird
that
because like this
advertising.
is right after the '80s where we were selling Rambo to kids and like aliens and stuff. Like that's a part of why I don't fully understand.
Yeah,
Like
but
sure the movie wasn't, but like we were still selling that stuff to
well,
kids.
this was another big point I wanted to make, which is I also don't think you would have had that reaction as much had this not been a sequel. Like if he had
Sure.
led with that, I get that you're saying you don't really see a difference between them, but like with respect, I think there is, and a lot of people felt that way. Um,
And I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't go farther because it does. It's just I've never seen it as that big drastic like we went too far in those places. Now we have to make like the most softened sequel we can. You know what
well,
I mean?
it's also probably too much of a blend of different things. Like if it was just violence, or if it was just a couple of vulgar lines or sexual things, but like it's a lot of stuff all blended together.
Hmm.
Like you've got Forever and Batman and Robin do a lot of sexual innuendo. This movie is just right candid in your face about it. With a lot of the kind of like gross sexual lines that Penguin has, and I think that was a big part of it for
Hmm.
for especially a lot of parents. Which
Yeah, oh,
brings me
for
back
sure.
to the point that I started to make a minute ago, which is that I've always had a difficult time understanding a why exactly I'm supposed to sympathize with the Penguin, and b why if I am, I'm supposed to sympathize with him as much as this movie wants me to. And I had a little bit of a breakthrough watching it this time, where I realized I the only I think the movie has a hard time communicating something, and I'm also not 100% sure if it's trying. It's a little bit confused with it. Where the Penguin is, I think, I supposed to be trying to be accepted and make the world care about him, even as he's developing this plot to kill all the firstborn. The question is, would he have done that had he been accepted? That's kind of the big question mark for me. And while he's I while he's doing that, he ends up uh, having the whole city turn against him when Batman uh, makes it clear that there was a ruse happening, and he's just pretending to care about the people of Gotham. But the way Burton and the producers talk about it here and there, it's like people are fickle and they turn against him at the first possible moment, and that is not at all what I'm seeing. The reason I wanted to bring this up at the beginning, Austin, is the only horrible people in the movie when it comes to the way they treat the Penguin, besides Max Schreck, are his parents. That's it. Everybody else is kind of shockingly accepting. Like they're not immediately like, oh my god, it's a gross penguin guy, even though he because this could have happened, right? Even though he seemed to have saved the mayor's baby, which obviously was a setup, I he's this like creepy monster guy we can't trust. No, immediately he's a hero, and then when he runs for mayor, immediately this is a good idea. Let's elect him. If the people of Gotham had continued to support him after what they find out about him, they would have been nuts for trusting him. And you'd look at it the other direction, where you're like, oh, they're like the brainwashed masses. So I don't understand that whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we just maybe needed to see more like eyes on the ground with that, because the people that work on his campaign are weird. Where it's like they're accepting of him to a degree, I guess, but they're also like, hey, we have to downplay your weirder aspects because like no one's gonna like that, and like they're also kind of not especially good people to him. They're very fake. So I think that's trying to communicate that, but we
Okay, that's a good
maybe
point.
need more eyes on the ground with it. My thing with Penguin with the sympathetic thing is I've always just seen it as um, like he's not a sympathetic person and that he just wants revenge in the world, but in the ways in which he's sympathetic is just because he's like that because that's how the people made him essentially. Um, so like
But I
that's
feel
kind
like
of
you can
always.
pin it entirely on his parents. It's like what is exactly the social commentary or the subtext supposed to be?
Hmm.
Because because at first it seems like it's just like rich, superficial, out of touch people, but then a lot of those people seem to support the Penguin
Hmm.
when he's running for mayor. So I just feel like it's kind of like oddly isolated. I mean, I get that on top of it, you also get uh in anti big business corporate message, and so Max Schreck is a horrible, very wealthy person, but as you said, maybe we just need more. Um,
Yeah, I think we just need to see more of how the actual people of Gotham behave. That's where you want the like Dark Knight Returns, like we're cutting to people reacting, right? Where it's like, I hope Batman gets the right people, that kind of a thing. I feel like we need that aspect.
yeah, because I feel like people seem pretty open to him, and Alfred is fine with him. I think until Batman does the research he does in finding out about his circus background. I'm a little fuzzy on that because you have this kind of moment where Alfred has suddenly turned on him, where he's like, "Oh, this grotesque penguin guy." And I'm like, I thought you were kind of sympathetic toward him and trying to get Bruce to be more sympathetic toward. So I have to assume that
Alfred's
the
just old; he doesn't remember.
I have to assume the only reason he does that is because of the research Bruce does. But you see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
there's some connective tissue that's missing here and there, and
Absolutely. I mean, like I said at the beginning, like where this movie works is atmosphere and things like that. It's not
yeah.
reading.
Well, and of course I have a hard time not focusing on story because that's what I do on the show.
No, of
Uh,
course, of course. I'm just saying, I agree with you. I think that's an issue with the movie. Like
but I
that's
will.
not. I'm not trying to defend it.
Yeah, well, and I'll also say that that's where the director and the writing are massively at odds. I wish this movie had a lot less dialogue in it, and I think Tim Burton also wishes that. I wish that it was even more. Uh, Sorry, I'm just distracted by the guy playing his son trying to do that accent. It's the best. It always cracks. Dad, go. Like Chip, who is Max Shrek's son. He is his voice sounds like Austin trying to do a Wonder Woman impression. Like that's what he sounds like.
Trying to do Gal Gadot.
Yeah. It's you doing Gal Gadot 30 years later. Go.
Go.
Get the stone.
Where are the stones?
But what I was gonna say is, I, like this is a pretty experimental movie. I think it could have been even more so that way, and I think it would have been a better piece if it was just unabashedly, actually entirely Tim Burton. I almost want to go as far as to say I don't know what a Tim Burton script would be like, but I almost wish he'd written it.
Oh, interesting. A lot of people complain about Batman's use in this movie,
Batman's
and
what?
how they use Batman in this movie
Yeah,
was not really in it that much. I think what I like about him is that he's much more of an everyman in this. For like, he has a lot more just human reactions to things in this one
that's
than he
true.
does in '89, and I like some of that stuff. I really like Keaton's performance in this movie.
Boy, I've had days on the highway where I wish my car could do that.
Oh, 100%.
There's like a little base that comes out from the bottom and swivels around. It's
Oh my
great.
god, I wish I had that the other day. There was like a car parked like right next to my driveway, and then one like in front. So like it was like the Austin Powers reverse forward, like 800-point turn. God, I had one of those.
But yeah, like I said earlier, I've always had kind of a hard time taking this movie on its own terms because even though I realized a lot of years after I first saw '89 as a kid that movie doesn't actually make a lot of sense and I doesn't have a great like character focused traditional narrative story like I probably thought it did when I was a dumb kid.
Hmm.
So in comparing them, this actually story wise is not that far off from that.
Yeah.
I end up having to say, but I do have a tough time deciding what it or I have in the past had a hard time deciding what exactly it's after, and so it's hard to take it on its own terms because I don't know how much of a real story it's trying to tell, and a lot of that is because again Tim Burton is kind of fighting the scriptwriters a little bit, starting with Sam Hamm, and then even going to the guy he hires to rewrite Sam Hamm.
Hmm. Like what? With what, for example? Because I don't know anything about this.
So, he brings in a guy named Daniel Waters
Hmm.
to
Yep.
to write this script, and then they have a falling out at some point, and he brings in even a third person to like rewrite uh, a lot of the dialogue and to make it lighter. And I would have really liked to have seen, and I wonder if there's a draft of that floating around anywhere.
Yeah, I
Because
wonder.
I would really like to see what Waters' script was before this other guy, Wesley Strick, comes in. So apparently, I and I don't know what exactly they were. The information I found on this is vague, but Tim Burton wanted certain changes made to the script, and Waters refused. So Burton fires him and then brings in the Strick guy. And one of the things that gets changed, well, I know that some of it was Waters didn't like the kind of willy nilly killing that Batman does.
Mhm.
And I can't tell if that was just a thing kind of decided that was decided at the script stage or after. I mean, surely it wasn't like on the day, but he was irritated with things like Batman just puts a bomb on a guy and blows him up, which doesn't. And I know a lot of fans have always complained, including myself. You know, why is Batman killing so indiscriminately? Isn't he supposed to be better than his villains? And it doesn't even match the material because you get like the actual spoken dialogue and what the motivation seemed to be, because you get to the end of the movie and Batman says to Catwoman that she's wrong on both counts when she says that the rules don't apply to them and that they don't have to worry about following the line. He's like no we do, you're wrong on both counts, and I'm like, but I mean you don't though. And you seem to be
Yeah.
kind of sanctioned by the local police to just set people on fire and explode them.
Yeah, and it's this weird
You
thing.
end up with that BVS problem where
Yeah.
he's killing people in fun action scenes, and you're supposed to ignore that when you get to the story part.
Well, it's a movie Batman issue because there's been two Batman movies where he doesn't kill anyone, and I think it is lesser for me, I guess, in these ones. I don't like it either, so it's not like a well, it's fine here. Like I don't like it here, but with the exception of that one sequence where he's talking to Catwoman, they're just never talking about it. While BVS and Nolan are so like trying to talk about it, but they're not actually thinking about it.
Yeah,
And so I think it makes it worse while watching. While in this, I just go, okay, this is just this Batman, like whatever. Like, I don't like it, but it's definitely more of an issue when you by the end when you saying that to Catwoman. But like, I don't know. At the same time, it's also just every movie Batman.
that's true. I with just that as an idea, looking at it across all the Batman movies, it does become a problem for me in trying to read this movie and what it's about, though.
No, and I agree absolutely.
Because if this Batman, if I can't decide whether this is a Batman that kills or not, and I mean, we see him in sequences do that, but then the story is telling us at the end that he doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So when he saves. When he tries to get her to save Max Schreck or not kill him, I'm like, well, why though? Like, you've killed thugs for less. Like, why do you care?
Literally got revenge in the last movie.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. And you kind of got revenge on your parents' killer before. And the fact that he doesn't do that seems to be at the end, or doesn't want her to get revenge. Kind of like in Batman Forever, his telling Robin like don't go get vengeance because you'll never come back from it. It seems to be the one thing the movie is telling us that separates him from his villains and makes him more of a man than an animal. And after all, thematically, especially just visually, but even in some of what little discussion we get about this stuff, the idea is supposed to be that part of Batman's duality is whether or not he wants to be part of society or he kind of likes being a ostracized freak. And there's a lot of literalizing with that, where Burton goes all the way. I mean, he's not writing the script, but this sounds like a Burton idea to me. He goes all the way in his movie to have Batman respond to Penguin when he says, I'm a genuine freak. You're just jealous because I'm a genuine freak and you have to wear a mask. And when Batman says something along the lines of, maybe that's true, or like you're probably right, I don't think he's joking. I think there's real truth to that.
It almost needs, with the Catwoman thing, to be more in line with something like a For Your Eyes Only, which I know you haven't seen, but the thing with that, and the Bond girl in that movie is basically Huntress, but there's a thing with that where she wants revenge, and Bond's like, you can't do it, like, you can't go down that route. You almost need Batman to do more of what he's saying in that, where it's, don't go this route because you can't escape. Like, I'm stuck in this life. This is what I am.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
You're early enough in it that you can walk away. You almost need it to be more of that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that's not how it reads.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think if you take that, it works with what you're seeing in the movie.
Because what it seems like you have here is we go to an honest to God or very close to supernatural place, and of course I've talked about that ad nauseum with Catwoman. Is like, does she get actual honest to God superpowers? Is she brought back from the dead in a supernatural way? I don't know. Tim Burton doesn't know. He keeps that ambiguous, except it can't be, because there's no way that she would survive what happens to her.
That's really funny that he doesn't know, because I've always had a definitive, like, no, she doesn't have cat powers. So that's interesting that he doesn't know.
But explain to me then, like, how does she survive the fall, and how does she keep getting shot at the end and she's fine?
My thing with the fall has always been, we see her go through several awnings, and I think that's supposed to be the explanation, is that breaks her fall. And then obviously she still hits hard, but that's part of her mental breakdown. As for the bullets, like you can be shot multiple times and don't essentially go down right away, but there's points where she gets like shot in the knee and she's like, oh, I lost another life. Like, it's you know what I mean? And like, she counts falling off a building into a vat of kitty litter as having lost a life.
That wouldn't kill you. In fact, she starts laughing when she drops in the kitty litter, which might just be because of the irony that it's kitty litter. But when I was a kid, I always thought she was laughing because this thing broke her fall. Oh my God, I'm alive. Is one of them supposed to be when she breaks through the greenhouse?
Yes.
I mean, she's probably not going to survive that. Honestly, that looks like a deadly fall. But
yeah, I mean, that's where it's just, movie logic. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, that's always what I've had with it. Like, I've never thought she literally has cat powers.
Okay, so I almost want her to, though.
Okay.
at this point. And again, I've kind of changed and grown as a person, or maybe I've degenerated as a person. I don't know. I I've started looking at this movie differently, and the way I'm able to enjoy this and take it more on its own terms, whether Burton realizes this is what he's making or not. But I suspect to some degree this is his intent. Austin is, and this is where it's just not really an '89 sequel. This is like '89 wants to be a crime drama noirish thriller that's like timeless and not set in any particular time period. This movie feels to me like it wants to be a modern dark fairy tale. And it goes to then more supernatural places and uses a lot of fairy tale tropes to get the ball rolling. So you've got a grotesque penguin man. How was he born like that? Who cares? He's he's almost literally a penguin that was somehow born of two people, like actual human beings. And then she falls from a high place and she's into cats. And this is very comic book. She has cats. She likes cat stuff. She's got like a cat spirit. When light hits her in her dark room, she looks like she's got cat eyebrows, cat ears. She's
I
a
love
cat.
the shot.
Yeah, that's why I
ears.
mentioned that. I've always loved that shot.
Yeah.
I bring it up every time we watch it. But so the cats come out of the woodwork and they come and essentially rescue her, bring her back from the dead, and then she has a transformation from that and is dealing with the same duality stuff that Batman is, and is able to find her confidence and now being kind of resurrected and having that cat spirit. One of the things that makes it feel very fairy tale is the Penguin's overarching plot, where like he wants to go kill all of Gotham's firstborn. Like that's a very kind of fairy tale-ish, like fable-ish idea. It's even almost a little bit biblical.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the Bible's a fairy tale, but you know what I mean. Like just these very old, kind of ingrained in us storybook ideas. And,
Yeah, and I think it's never fully left what '89's doing for me because we still have connections to the crime stuff. Like we've changed, what it is exactly, but part of that to me has just always been we're shifting to different villains and we don't want to repeat exactly that. But there's still elements of that like crime drama side.
Sure, and you could even make the case that the kind of fairy tale or old school comic book thing is still kind of there with '89 in the way the Joker becomes the Joker. Like when he falls in the vat, how does that give you that face? Like who cares? Mm-hmm. But I guess my point is, I don't actually mind as much the lack of internal logic if that's what we're making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I don't find myself asking as many questions if that's what it is, and like maybe that sounds like a weak defense of the movie for people that don't like it. But as soon as I went, oh wait a minute, maybe this is just a fairy tale, I started not minding that stuff as much.
Mm-hmm. No, and I mean, you get scenes like this, obviously, where logically, like, what's happening, I don't know, but it's cool, like, it's atmospheric, like, I enjoy what I'm looking at.
Yeah, but there's also more evidence that there might be something supernatural going on, Austin,
mm-hmm.
because one thing you cannot explain is why the cats follow her back to her apartment.
Yeah,
and that's not for atmosphere. There's nothing atmospheric about that. It feels like a plot point, nearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's... I mean, my answer would be is that he probably did it because it was cool.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But
yeah.
He's also intentionally ambiguous about it. He could have made it really clear if he cared that much.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean is, Tim Burton does not want this to be remotely realistic, and that allows for the read that it is supernatural. And I think you're right. I think you can maybe go the other way. But I guess the point I'm making is, I used to be really hardline against doing the silly supernatural cats bring her back to life thing. But taking the movie more on its own terms, I think I'm actually kind of okay with it with this material. I think it almost works better if that is what it is.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I like that it's vague enough that, whichever way you would rather it be, you can kind of make an
Yeah.
argument for it.
And so on the taking it on the terms of traditional narrative, it doesn't work at all, and I want more of an explanation for what's actually happening, and I don't want it to be like just song lyrics that you can read any way you want to, but that is kind of what he's making, and
Mhm.
so it's okay if the this is a big point I wanted to get to. That's okay if the story isn't I like what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I'm always distracted by this scene because it bothered me so much as a kid. I've talked about that before, but just her like murdering her stuffed animals. I always had a hard time with that as a kid. It
I
doesn't
was
bother
like,
me
yeah,
now, but it used to. I used to have a
somebody
hard time
should
with it.
edit this where she's putting the characters from Toy Story in there.
Oh my god, that's great. Visually, this is actually one of my favorite scenes now.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
It's just really well directed,
Well,
and
that's just the
it's a
thing with this
cool
movie
set.
is that I
It's so
don't,
weird and unusual.
up until the Batman, like no Batman movie is atmospheric like this is. Like again after it until the Batman.
Yeah, and you can't underestimate how influential this is on comic book movies. And
Hmm.
I don't think I've talked about that enough or given enough credit for that. That doesn't make your movie good, of course.
Well, yeah, and
But
I mean, even
he's
with
ahead of his time in a lot of ways, even if I didn't love the story he was telling and felt like it was a little mean spirited for Batman and for an '89 sequel.
well, and even for the way we change with Forever, like Forever and Batman and Robin are following the formula of this movie and not '89.
Oh, yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And
Like
also a
the
bunch of other
all three
superhero movies
sequels are
after
the
that.
same movie when you break it down.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like Spider-Man 3 does it.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of superhero movies that go. You've got to have the two villains, especially with sequels. You have the two villains. You kill one at the end.
Mhm.
You've got one that's already established. You got the other one that gets an origin in the movie. This does all of that first.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it goes all the way to like Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think it's like the most recent movie that follows that formula.
But yeah, what I was gonna say is, I feel like this movie presents itself a little bit too much as traditional narrative and should let itself get weirder. And again, that's where the script and Tim Burton are really butting heads. So the
Sure.
big mistake that I was made with this, and I never realized this before.
Mhm.
And tell me if you agree that this is a problem. This is a mistake.
Mhm.
This was one of the big studio mandates that was changed from Waters' original script. So when he got tossed off, they changed this. He went to the theater and saw it and went, "What the hell is this?"
Mhm.
The Penguin didn't have. This is the crux of it. This changes everything. The Penguin didn't, in the original script, have the kill all the firstborn plot.
Oh,
He didn't have that.
but that's like his entire plot in this.
Yeah, I know.
What was his plot in?
That's the
Because
thing. I what I think and that's why I want to see that draft. What I think that original draft probably had was a way more sympathetic Penguin. I
yeah,
think he shows up and is wanting to be finally accepted by the world and gets close to that and doesn't get it and turns on Gotham after that, which is a way better story and would make him a lot more sympathetic.
but what is he doing after
Now,
that
now
point?
I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, he definitely running for mayor, and I'm wondering if maybe originally that was his idea. Like, I don't know,
Mhm.
but I'm sure that was there from at least the beginning of Water's script.
Well, because what I like with how it's handled here, and I think as we've kind of talked about, like we could have made it a little bit more readable, is I like that he comes in and he's got this like dastardly plan, and he's kind of forced into this mayor thing, And I think part of where he's sympathetic is he maybe could have been turned during all of this if it didn't go so wrong, maybe, like, if people didn't reject him, I guess, like Tim Burton things, but it's not especially done well.
Yeah, I don't really see that anywhere.
Mhm.
He doesn't really have an opportunity for change with that. Like when he freaks out and has that speech where he's like, "I am an animal, I am not a man." It kind of just for me feels like it comes out of nowhere. Where it's like at
Mm,
no point did I think that you were heading more toward a becoming a man direction, and that's what it really needs if that's the story you're going to tell.
mhm.
But I don't know. There's a couple different ways you could, and I'm just speculating when I say that maybe that was the original idea. Um, Also, real quick, let me say something else that I wish thematically we brought out a lot more to the fore is of course just the parallel between Bruce and the Penguin's past, and I feel like even when Bruce finds out about his past with the circus and that he's been dealing with this gang, he should still be more sympathetic toward the Penguin for his rich parents throwing him out to the wolves the way he does, because it's the exact opposite of his backstory.
Mhm.
Like, at least Bruce had parents that cared about him before he lost them.
Well, I think he is supposed to be sympathetic towards that, but then loses it after, like, dealing with him.
He
Like, I
loses it
think
way too fast. And
yeah.
and also the Penguin shows his hands too fast for no good reason. And if he hadn't done that, maybe Batman would have stayed somewhat sympathetic toward him, and both of them would have been more sympathetic for the audience
Mhm.
and more interesting characters. That point where he goes, where he's like, I'm surveying the carnage or the damage or whatever, and then just like he says upstanding mayor stuff, and then Bruce says, or Batman says, "You're not the mayor," and then immediately Penguin's basically like, "Oh, you got me." This
Well, it's a
this whole
place
this whole thing
where
was an act, and I'm like, why? Why not just keep playing it up? I don't understand that.
I mean, it's a place where I think it's it maybe would have been handled better if it was done later on in superhero movie history, where, like, it feels
That's a
like
good
we
point.
need Penguin to still be involved with the action, but story-wise, he probably shouldn't be until the end.
This is where a set piece is about to happen.
Exactly, and, like,
No, you're
that's
you're so right about that.
and you should be able to separate it because you have two villains where you can have Catwoman kind of fill in that role and then Penguin take it on later. But
Yeah,
we're just
because
kind of not there yet.
there's a lot of potential with this setup, and again, like thematically, social commentary wise, a lot more potential than even 89, which could have said something about 80s materialism, and that was kind of left on the cutting room floor. I found a little bit more in it when I did the first commentary for this series, but like it's there's not a lot there. It's not real readable.
Yeah. What a lot of it
But
with me for
eventually,
Mhm. No, go
real,
ahead.
real quick, I just want to finish this point. But then eventually the movie does kind of degenerate to a degree into kids playing with action figures,
Yes.
or sexually frustrated adults playing with action figures. And Batman and Robin has exactly the same thing, but it couches it all in innuendo. And so it feels more like kids playing with action figures. This feels like grown ass men playing with
Playing
action
with sex
figures.
dolls, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? No, a lot of it with me for Penguin is just Danny DeVito. Like, it's that Defoe
Yeah.
Green Goblin thing where on paper I think the character is a mess, but that like the actors like making it really great.
I really appreciate these few moments that retain the weirdness of 89, where you'll just stop and talk about something for no reason that I don't even understand why it's there. It always cracks me up when he's like, oh, the soup is cold, it's supposed to be cold. Like, why do we stop everything?
That's
Like,
part of like Bruce Wayne in this movie is really relatable. He's just the everyman. Like, you have this moment where you stop at that, and then the part where he's pulling the claws out of his side is maybe the most human Batman scene ever put to film.
that's funny.
And one of my favorite Michael Keaton moments when in the Batmobile chase where he's driving at the alley and he can't get the sides to break off, and there's that moment where he like panics.
Yeah.
Like, I just think he's playing it a little bit more human than he did in '89, and I think that's supposed to be how he's continued after his arc.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And it's interesting that he's maybe like, if you can read into that performance anyway, because it's not in the script, but if you can read into that, it seems like maybe he's kind of become more comfortable with himself and settled in a little bit, but at the same time is still kind of lonely and feels like an outcast and is able
Mhm.
to see himself some in the Penguin and Catwoman.
Yeah, well, we still see that he's basically a wraith in this movie still, like, uh, but like you kind of peel it back and there's like a human core to it at the same time
Yeah,
that
well,
Catwoman and Penguin don't have.
even more so than with 89, especially with this last viewing I had with this Austin, I felt like Bruce Wayne was just Tim Burton in a Batman suit. And like he's clearly a stand-in for the director in the director's mind.
Mhm. Okay, interesting. Which is funny because, so many people look at this and go, Burton has no interest in Batman.
No, what's really interesting about it is and Burton always says Batman is misunderstood as a character, and what he really means, I think, is my Batman is misunderstood as a character
Mhm.
because people don't get that. What I like about that character, or potentially what he could be, is that he walls everyone off and doesn't let anybody in and lives apart and secretly is maybe kind of lonely, but he doesn't talk about that. And so he tries to do the right thing in helping the city or whatever, forgetting the moments where he sets people on fire and blows them up with dynamite. But he is ultimately this outcast that's misunderstood that nobody's ever really going to get.
Mhm.
And what he really wants is just to be allowed to be what he is. That is Tim Burton to a T. Like that is
Mhm.
who the man is.
Yeah, for sure. One, people complain that he's not in this movie enough, and I've always felt like his presence feel makes it feel like he's in it more than he actually is, and a lot of people don't have that, and fair enough. But that's how I've always kind of felt about it.
Yeah, more and more I've become kind of okay with that. I think I've just sort of adjusted and kind of like gotten indoctrinated to what this is, like
Well, and it's
it's
also part of the '89 thing where I'm like, okay, but '89's also more of the Joker movie, so it's
yeah.
part of that. It feels on par to me, where it's like this is what. And I mean, it's all four of them, really, because all four of these '90s Batman movies live or die on their villains.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of it too is just that you've got two villains this time instead of one. They have arguably equal screen times. That's gonna eat up some of the screen time that you could have
Yeah,
had with
sure.
with Batman. And again, the ideas are. I'm being like Tim Burton in his commentary for these movies, where he just keeps saying the word again even when it doesn't apply. It's weird. But anyway, like I was saying earlier, Burton is all about the primal, kind of broad, grand ideas with this. And so it's about what he calls like animal people. The ways in which these characters become like primal and carnal, and Batman is supposed to be that but tempered, like he's careful not to take it too far and he's still a human being underneath. And the question is like is supposed to be with Catwoman, can she also be that, or is she going to go too far in the Penguin direction? And ultimately, that's what she kind of does tragically at the end. And the Penguin is supposed to be the exact, like in a different way from the Joker, like the exact mirror image of Batman, where he is Bruce Wayne if his parents discarded him and he
Mhm.
was a freak his whole life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this makes me happy because it's one of the last adaptations where Catwoman can actually be a
Be a
villain.
bad guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the idea is supposed to be that at the end of the day, the biggest monster is Max Schreck, who doesn't even put on a costume.
Mhm. Which is like a very like animated series
It
direction.
is, and all of that on paper is not only like fine and like not bad ideas at all, but also like you just said with the animated series, Batman ideas. Like
Yeah. I mean, look at this. Max Shrek literally has a Doctor Evil chair set.
yeah, no, that's true.
Like
It's
he should be
interesting
able to
that,
hit a button and the people fall off into fire.
yeah, Burton was not interested in initially making a sequel. He wasn't really all that interested in the character of Batman. I think some of the things I like the most about 89 are the things that he finds the most boring and weakest. He comes into this again saying, there I am with that word again, saying, I don't really want to make Batman. I want to do my own thing. But if they'll let me do it my way, I'll make a Batman movie. But I'm not thinking about that at all. The movie we made before, and
Mhm.
he intentionally gets rid of Sam Hamm to bring in somebody that has no affinity for Batman.
Mhm.
Like Waters was not nostalgic or really interested in that character. They both think Robin is boring and uninteresting and does not need to be in a Batman movie.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think
And they
if
almost put
that
him
was how,
in,
yeah,
but they neither of them wanted to.
and I think if that's how Batman movies shifted forever, I would be more annoyed about it. But the fact that we got this movie and then it immediately cuts off, I'm fine with that.
Well, and that's where I'm at now. Like, I meant to say this earlier, but I think one of the reasons that I don't have the vitriol toward this movie that I used to is just, like, perspective and time. I can look at this as its own piece, and I've had a lot more Batman and a lot more, like, varied, different types of Batman movies, some closer to what I see as quote-unquote my Batman and some further away. And also, I really respect it for, you keep talking about atmosphere. I really respect it for all the things that it influenced
Hmm.
that are just like really pretty cool atmospheric pieces. Like I don't know that you get some of the better, darker comic book movies without this movie. I think it set a precedent. And I never really appreciated this before recently, but I think it maybe set a precedent as much as 89 did for uh, like visual storytelling with the more uh, kind of darker, aimed at adults, even anti-hero kind of pieces.
Yeah, and I mean, going straight to the Batman, Matt Reeves has talked about how this is his favorite Batman movie, and I
Yeah,
think you
I
can
read that
tell
today.
watching it. Like, it feels like this movie, but with more affinity for Batman and stronger writing.
Well, like the only thing I like about Gotham is that it looks like this movie.
Mm, yeah, for sure.
Because like Gotham, it feels like Batman Returns is the only thing that show is looking at. Hey, we got some super chats. I'm
Oh my
gonna go
God,
ahead
I've
and.
never noticed the dollar store, sorry, dollar sign doors. That's really funny.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
guess I didn't either. Well, and it's funny because Max Shrek's office just looks like a giant Wonkavator. Like it looks like it's gonna shoot off at some point and just start flying.
well, now he's in like a Beetlejuice outfit.
Did you have this? This is the first moment where I realize for sure that Chip is in on everything Max Shrek does.
Mhm. No, I think.
Or maybe it's a little later when he's like, sorry, there's a point. It's not dead. There's a point later where Selena Kyle comes back and he goes, I'll throw out a higher window, and I'm like, oh, Chip knows about that.
I think the clue in is supposed to be when he pushes her out. He's like, all of the stuff I'm building is for my son to inherit, and I think that's supposed to be like the yes, like he is in on this.
Okay.
But if, but it's also vague enough that I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just always kind of wondered about that.
Yeah.
The power theme is obvious and real on the nose, but for this material, I don't mind it.
Well,
Where
and
it's like
the
he's
power
gonna
plant that's
he,
sucking
he's gonna
power from
suck
the city,
power out of Gotham.
that is so silly. Like that is just a cartoon villain. He's just Dick Dastardly.
It's absolutely hysterical. You're not supposed to think too much about that. It's like, well, we have a power surplus. Nobody will notice. It's like skimming pennies off the dollar to get rich if there's enough dollars, right?
Yeah.
It's a power laundering scheme.
No, Max Shrek would do the Arrested Development joke where they run the banana stand, and in order to embezzle, you have to throw out a banana and then you can take out $1. But really, you're losing $2 by doing that.
So real quick, I'm going to read the super chats in a second, but I just want to say, for the longest time, I complained that Penguin's villain plot is all over the place, and I think I failed to understand at one point, and I forget like if I amended this somewhere in a review or not. But because we've talked about this 3 or 4 times,
Yeah, and it was
review
one of the things I
commentary.
was thinking about while watching it today, and I was like, oh, it's really not. Like,
It's not. No. It actually kind of tracks. The real question once again is just at any point might he have abandoned it? That's what I can't tell.
yeah, that I agree with. I think like that is his villain plot, and then he keeps being dragged into things, and I think it's
Yeah.
easy if you're not fully giving it that, or if you're not fully with the movie, to go, oh, his plan keeps changing, and it's like, no, not really. Like he keeps getting dragged into different plans.
Well, the big again sometimes, and I don't want movies to hold your hand too much, but as I always say, some things need to be made, of course, explicit. So if it's there but too blink and you miss it, it's just you don't have the right emphasis on the right syllable, right? So when there's two clues as to what he's doing versus what he's pretending he's doing, and it took me too long to realize it. And maybe I'm just dumb, but I feel like I didn't have enough people in that initial rewind come back at me and go, no cap, this is what it really is. So I can't be the only person. We had a lot of comments on those old rewinds when he goes to the library or wherever it is to try to ostensibly learn who his parents are.
He's writing down the names of all the
He's writing
firstborn
down
children.
the names of all the firstborn.
That's what he's actually doing.
Yes, that's what he's actually doing. And
Yeah.
then Batman right before that says, I think he knows who his parents are.
Mhm.
And so that is the movie cluing you in that he's got this evil dastardly plot, and all of this is an act. It's all a ruse.
Mhm.
And it took me too long to realize that, because I think some of that too though is because to some degree we are supposed to sympathize with him. We're supposed to feel bad that his parents threw him out the way that they did, that he's not being accepted by society. And I'm like, well, is he or isn't he actually trying to learn who his parents are? Oh no, he's not. The reason we're supposed to sympathize with him is because I think they made him a monster in the first place, and so everything he does is kind of their fault.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I just kind of wished that it was taken further, where, like you said, there was a place or two where he might be tempted to, like actually join society, to not just pretend.
Mhm. Yeah, it's one of the places where the writing of this movie is really kind of holding it back from what could have been a genuinely really great movie.
Yeah, and beyond that, if you don't want to make it traditional narrative, and I don't actually really mean this, but like just don't have anybody say anything. Make it a total silent film and just put all the pictures on the screen, and let us guess the motivations, because it's immediately a better movie if you do that.
Well, now that you say that, I want to see what Tim Burton's silent Batman film looks like.
And people have made silent versions of '89 and Returns. I still have not looked at them, but
Mhm.
I hear great things about a couple of fan edits that have done that. I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's interesting, but like it's probably weird because that's not obviously not how they're built. But
That
like I want to
that's
see him
true.
build that.
Oh no, absolutely. Okay, let me go through some super chats here. Dan
Go full
Schneider,
Caligari, Burton, do it.
$5 super chat. Maybe you already talked about this in another video, but was Violator in '97 Spawn influenced by DeVito in this? It's a pretty similar performance. There's no way it wasn't.
Yeah, there's
And
no way.
there's also no way that DeVito wasn't their first choice also.
Mhm. I wouldn't be shocked.
I don't know that for sure. I said there's no way. I think there's kind of no way.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's RoboCop again. Are you having RoboCop flashbacks?
No, of course I am.
I'm having RoboCop flashbacks.
We had the RoboCop guy pulls like the woman into the alley scene that was in every early superhero movie like a few scenes ago.
I read part of a contemporary review today that said something along the lines of it was really bold of Burton to make Batman movie that isn't as action driven as the last one for a big summer blockbuster. I don't know if I agree that there's less action set pieces in this than there is in '89.
No, and I think the action set pieces that are here are more impressive. Like, I don't know what that person's talking about. Like, he's moving in this bat suit in this fight scene way more than he does in '89.
Yeah, he seems more comfortable in it. It's clearly built differently, so he's able to like. It's got more
Yeah.
moving pieces, so he's able to move. But
He's
also,
able to
like
move a
you
little
said
bit
earlier,
better.
I agree that they're shot better. That's absolutely true.
Mhm. Like, the most he could really do in '89 was go like that, and he does like the high kick. Like, he's like, he grabbed a dude and went like that. Like,
We talked over the big action scene at the beginning when he sets the guy on fire, but there's a moment there that cracks me up that I wanted to bring up. I've always loved the cat clock, and I want one.
it's great, yeah.
I think Catwoman putting her face into the cat face on the glass is like an iconic image.
Well, that's one of the places where it feels like '89, where '89 has those shots here and there that feel like comic book covers.
Yes,
That's one of them.
that's one of them.
Also,
yeah,
I don't know if we've ever talked about this, Cat, but when I play as Catwoman in the Arkham games, I do the constant cartwheeling thing, like as moving around,
That's great.
which gets really tiring on the thumb, hitting the A button over and over again. But
Obviously, Pfeiffer is even with people that don't like this movie, she's kind of beloved with this performance. I think her turn from like mousy, pathetic Selena Kyle to Catwoman in the cat suit, and then this almost like third in between thing she does when she's dating Bruce Wayne is like really impressive.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I agree. I
Some
think
of the
Pfeiffer's
material
great.
is kind of nonsense, but what she does with it is really impressive.
But it's like DeVito, where like some of the writing with it's not great, but they're really elevating them.
Yeah, a ton.
Yeah.
Do you go as far as is this where her performance is so good, maybe it is kind of too bad she didn't get that spinoff? I mean, I don't know how that movie would have been.
My gut answer was no, because I don't want to see her in that movie. But
Yeah.
if it's a better movie, I guess
It was a
out of all of the Catwomans that could have spun off, she's probably up there.
for people that don't know, it was a bad premise. They were gonna make a movie, and Burton was gonna direct it. They were gonna make a movie where
I didn't know he was going to direct
I
it.
think so, or at least he was supposed to be involved in it, and lost interest at some point, so it never got made, and that's why we got the crappy Halle Berry movie. Because the Halle Berry movie is that project transformed into this is that scene where Penguin is like, I'm gonna keep up my facade for like 10 seconds, and then never mind, I'm the bad guy.
But it does make me wonder with Pfeiffer, like how she looks at this role, because I know with DeVito, like this is his favorite role he's ever done. So like I wonder if this is higher up for her as well.
I think she talks about it with affection. I think she's glad she did it.
I know I've seen an interview with her when Rises came out, and she talked about how she's seen as like the best Catwoman, and everyone in the theater laughed, and I was like, I don't know why everyone's laughing at that, but
yeah, because it's kind of true.
It's kind of true, especially at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's got more competition now, but her line reading of just meow is really good.
Yeah, it is
Like,
funny.
I don't know. I kind of wish her characterization, just for like my own personal taste, was a little different, but everything she does in the suit is really cool.
Yeah. Playing jump rope and high heels.
Yeah, I like her demeanor. I like how I like how confident she is. I like how her voice drops.
Well, I mean, she 100% has a Catwoman voice.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And and if I have to compare her to like 60s Catwoman, because I love all three of the Adam West Catwoman, she's doing something weirdly kind of in between like a Julie Newmar and an Eartha Kitt, I think. I'm not saying there's a lot of Eartha Kitt in it, but like I've always said that Julie Newmar is a house cat and Eartha Kitt is a jungle cat, and she's somewhere in between that.
Mm. Yeah, for sure.
I
I'm sure she was probably looking at all three of them, especially at this point.
I would imagine so, and it's interesting, right? Because a lot of the mission statement for '89 was get people to forget all about the '60s show, and then we come into this, and they steal two major plot points from '60s Batman Penguin episodes to make their Penguin plot.
When DeVito is 100% looking at Burgess Meredith and his performance, there's like,
and I'm not
he's even doing some of the quack laughing.
I just think it's so interesting how long that didn't last. Where it's like we don't want anybody to think about '60s Batman. 3 years later, he's going to run for mayor and steal the Batmobile. And then after that...
But also Batman can acid attack Catwoman, as we just saw.
There was another point I was making. Oh, I wanted to mention... Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
No, okay.
There's that action scene at the beginning where we're fighting the circus gang, and Batman punches a tall skeleton man with this absurdly giant face mask, and somehow it knocks him out. How is that not enough padding?
Well, it's like a side punch too. It's awesome.
It's like, how does he get knocked out by that?
I love really the googly eyes in that skull mask. It's great.
So she gets thrown in the kitty litter, and she is a little irritated the Batman ripped her costume and knocked her off a building, but then she acts like she needs massive revenge for it later. She's like, oh, hey Batman, we got to take him out. And that's another thing that feels like it's just, if not set pieces, just typical plot points where it's now we need both of the villains to want to get rid of the hero. And I don't know that she really has enough reason to she's just kind of toying with him and playing with him. She survived the fall. I don't know why it's that big of a deal unless she really believes that she's lost a life out of her.
When she's talking to Penguin, she describes the acid attacking as him throwing napalm at her.
Oh, yeah.
Did that burn her?
I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a burn.
Through?
And then later she goes up to Batman and she goes, I thought we had something together. And I'm like, 20 minutes ago, you wanted to get revenge on this guy for knocking you off a building and hitting you with napalm.
You threw the chemical that heals the Predator in Predator 2 at her.
When I was a kid, it was distracting that Batman was fighting a gang of clown thugs in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Because I was like, well, we just had the Joker, and he didn't even have thugs that looked like this. He had some clowns working for him.
Yeah, just as a kid, I always assumed they were Joker's henchmen, but that doesn't really make sense.
And it turns out they're not. They're just part of Red Triangle. So I don't know why they're clowns again. And apparently they originally weren't supposed to be. Burton insisted on them being clowns.
Well, I guess there's maybe a mix. There's because you got the skull guys and the guys that are in the big legs. So there is more of a circus-y theme, but you also see a lot of clowns.
Well, and okay, that's fair because it's circus, so you'd have some clowns. Also, isn't the circus your real clear in for Robin? I get that they didn't want to do him, but even if they had done him, their idea was he was going to be a mechanic that fixes the Batmobile. So I think when maybe...
Oh, so he's Harold.
This is speculation, but when Alfred says we can't just take it to any old Joe's body shop, I wonder if that wasn't originally supposed to be lead up to they find Robin.
Oh, Roboter's 100 puts it in a good point, which is he throws her off a high place, which brings back the trauma of her getting thrown out a window.
If that's supposed to be the reason, that needs to be talked about, but that's great. Hey, Austin, I'm sorry to do this for you, but I need you to run point for just a couple minutes.
Okay. Do you want me to tackle those super chats or wait till you get back?
Would you wait till I get back for those?
Yes, of course.
People might be disappointed if we don't both talk about them.
No, very true, very true.
But yeah, would you mind just talking about the scene we're looking at, and I'll be right back.
Yes. So, of course, now we have the weird Penguin's a pervert scene, and Catwoman's gonna eat this bird. No, it's really funny because everybody talks about how just kind of gross this is, and you have the just the I was looking for, put it at that. Oh, and there's foreshadowing for the Batmobile thing. I forgot about that. But anyways, uh, I think because I watched so much Looney Tunes as a kid, like it never really hit me until like I was in high school. That's even what it was going for. So that's part of my thing with this movie, where I don't really see how this is too far for kids, because all of this is gonna go right over their heads. Uh, I don't know. I think it's vague enough that it's fine. That and Penguin pulling a knife on a cat is genuinely really funny. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Oh yeah, discussing topics. She 100% put that bird in her mouth. You can tell. And it also, I was thinking about this time today. It also messes up her lipstick, which is really funny. Like for the rest of the scene, she's gonna have lipstick kind of oozing down her chin, and it's really amusing that they didn't. Oh, I think she just did it right there. I think it's actually from the glove, maybe, not even from putting the bird in her mouth. Yep. That's
Yeah,
100%
and
that.
Michelle Pfeiffer said if she had to do it all over again, she would not have put the bird in her mouth
I mean,
because
I guess so.
she said it didn't occur to her that that might be dangerous. And that it's maybe not not sanitary. I didn't even think about diseases.
Yeah, she's gonna get the bird flu.
But I mean, it is cool that she was that committed,
Yeah,
and it's amazing that it's always funny when something is done practically and it looks so good, you think it's a special effect.
yeah.
Because when the bird flies out of her mouth, we could do that in CG now, and even back then, you probably could have.
I mean, that's what they do with the remote control battering. I think maybe not CGI, but like, we're doing some effects with that.
No, but there are actually some real special effects or real CG effects in this movie in a couple places. Apparently, I'm not sure where they are, but I read that.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught this when you were coming back, Cap, but I love that she smears her lipstick while putting the bird in her mouth, and they don't fix it. Like it's just smeared for the
it's
rest
just smeared
of
on it. No, it's great.
the scene.
Sorry, real quick, can I say this?
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne's outfit in this scene is great.
Yeah, let me get a
I love
good
this look for Bruce Wayne, where he's because he usually wears turtlenecks, but the like purple button up shirt that looks great.
That is a good look.
It's a good Bruce Wayne look.
This is a Batman that does a little bit more detective work, so in this movie. So he puts on a little detective outfit.
You know what? That's kind of true.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not a full detective Batman movie, but like he's doing a little bit more detective work than he normally does.
So again, I gotta wear kind of two different hats when I watch this movie. Like the traditional narrative brain says, Bruce Wayne is made less sympathetic because he goes out with a crazy person. With Selena Kyle, who he absolutely should not be attracted to, and then the other brain that says this is a fairy tale and it's more about the themes and the broader ideas says, well, he's attracted to her because instinctively he can tell that she's also a lonely recluse like he is.
That's how I've always seen it. Yeah.
And I'm a little more okay with it than I ever used to be. Also, I think he's supposed to just be like really bad with women. And I feel like maybe this is probably going too far. I was going to say maybe we're playing it like Vicky Vale was indeed his soulmate and he blew that, and so the best he can hope for now is another quote unquote animal person that lives the more vigilante life that he does. Like that's what he's going to have to resort to now.
When him realizing she's crazy is also one of those places where he just has a very human reaction to it. Where he's just
when his eyes bulge out of his head when she's got the gun.
Yeah. Awesome. I love his performance in that scene. But Cap, may I remind you, there is a scale in which you have craziness and hotness.
Oh. So you're saying if it's Michelle Pfeiffer and she's nuts, then you might still try to make that work somehow.
Hmm.
Are you aware that Michael Keaton actually dated her at one point, well
I
before
didn't
this
know that.
movie? Say again?
I didn't know that.
And that she was apparently up for Vicky Vale, and Keaton vetoed it because he was trying to he was having marital difficulties, and he was afraid that that would mess up his marriage
Interesting. Okay.
if she played his love interest in that movie at that time.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if they had divorced by this point, or if just her being Catwoman wasn't as big of a deal as her being Vicky Vale for some reason. Like, I don't know. I didn't look
Or
that
they
deep
just kind of
into
like
it.
worked out whatever it was.
Maybe so. Maybe
Yeah.
so. Let me go ahead and work through the rest of these super chats. And sorry for making you guys wait. We had a $20 one, and much appreciated. Thanks for the support. So we got to get to that in a second. Tom, $2 super chat. I like this Skullington Minion guy. Yeah,
The guy he punched out.
those outfits are awesome. I love them. And
It's part of just the production in this movie is wonderful.
it is.
Yeah.
And it made for some really cool video games, and some not very good video games too. But there's a beat. I think the best one is on Super Nintendo. That really captured the look and the feel of this, and you get to fight all those minion guys, including the big skullhead guy.
Watching the scene with the two of them, God, we wasted her when we finally cast her in another superhero movie.
Oh, don't remind me, man.
She's so good.
That's all I can complain about with Ant-Man 2 is you made your third act, what should have been your first act plot point, your third act plot point. I mean, like the end of it.
What's made even worse with 3.
Climax of the movie. What's that?
It's made even worse with 3, because then it turns into like the worst movie ever.
Yeah. And like those movies aren't the best, but I think she is really good casting for that role.
Yeah.
If only they'd give her some cool stuff to do. Okay, great. $2 super chat. Best villain from the 90s Batman movies.
Sorry. The best villain of the 90s Batman movies?
Yeah, just of these 4.
My gut reaction is Catwoman.
At this point, I have such a hard time with that. There's like my nostalgic answer and like my real answer, right?
Well, because I want to say Mr. Freeze, but I feel like genuinely it's probably Catwoman.
Like my nostalgic answer is Riddler as Jim Carrey, just because I was such a giant Jim Carrey guy as a kid, and because he channels Gorshin in some places, and I love Gorshin, but I don't know, like.
Well, I guess I can give you a quick ranking. There's only like 6 of them.
Yeah.
So we go Two-Face, Riddler, Bane, Joker, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, Catwoman. I put no thought into this, so if you want to be like you're wrong, go ahead, because I put no thought into it.
Yeah, we'll get to Batman and Robin eventually. I don't really understand Austin's whole thing with that. Like I can't tell how ironic it is or what his deal is with that. But
No, I mean, yeah, they're not great, but like in terms of the movie that they're in, I think both of them work really well. And Uma Thurman just straight up understands the movie she's in.
Yeah, she does. And I've always said she's good casting for like in actual honest to God serious Poison Ivy.
Absolutely.
I got flack at some point when I said that. I'm not sure why. I think it's just people going, "This movie sucks." It's like, yeah, but just imagine her with the right
but Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy is genuinely underrated. Like,
Yeah.
she's really good in that movie.
Have you ever seen her in The Producers?
No, because I've never seen The Producers.
Oh, you should see that. She's great in that.
I mean, I like Uma Thurman in general. Yeah.
Hey, Austin, do you have a dirty limerick? Has one just sprung to mind?
A dirty limerick?
Yeah.
Me so horny.
He says that in the scene.
Me love you long time.
No, I don't mean you have to actually recite one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's also a sample, but that is a song.
I don't know. I guess my answer is still still Jag.
Yeah.
Out of those 6. I'm not even sure how I would rank that at this point. Tom, $2 super chat. I think way too much about this. I don't know what he's on about here. When LUSE my shredder. I don't know what any of that means. Thanks for the super chat, Tom.
I
Seniors,
think way too much about this when less my shredder. I don't know.
yeah. Can I talk about the suit up scene for a second?
Yes.
So he picks up a cowl that is missing the bat on it. So that goes on after he puts everything on.
Yes.
And he has this cool indention of the bat symbol in his boots now. That's a nice addition.
Yeah, I think I like this
The
bat.
shields also move really slow now in the Batmobile. I don't know why. Like he needs to take that to the shop even before it goes through
Yeah,
through
where
the
are you,
alleyway.
Robin?
It's
Come
so
and fix this.
you gotta take it to Robin.
I like the bat suit in this movie more, with the exception of the abs. That's the one thing that is a weakness, or like a
I've never liked
downgrade.
that.
But outside of that, I think this is a better suit than the '89 suit.
I guess I still just have the nostalgia thing, and I don't know how to separate it. Like I still
Yeah,
prefer the
for
89
sure.
suit. The
I mean, I like
problem,
both.
part of
It's
the
like a
issue,
Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2 thing, where it's like it's very minor.
I'm just glad he kept the belt. My biggest issue with the Flash suit is why on earth would you change that belt that much? It's the best Batman belt we've ever had. Why would you mess with it?
Yeah, and if I had to rank them, because we're
If
ranking
you're
now,
ranking belts,
it's Returns '89, the Flash suit.
thank,
Um,
thank you for that, Austin.
the
Thank you.
best thing that this suit does over the '89 suit, though, that I think even you can admit, is the symbol. It's just the symbol that they sold '89 on.
I don't have that. I like the other
Oh,
symbol.
okay.
I think it's
I don't
cool.
like the two things at the bottom. I'm glad we got rid of that.
Again, it's just I can't separate it.
Yeah, fair enough. No,
I
I
don't
think
have a
you'd
good
agree with me
reason for
because
that.
it's the symbol we sold '89 on. So like, I figured you'd be like, yes, absolutely,
Well, can I be really nitpicky for a minute?
go for it.
It isn't. It's a little different. If it was
Oh,
that exact symbol, but like the point on the bottom is longer, and like it is different.
oh, okay. I don't know. It's close enough that it just registers as the same to me. But fair
God, the
enough.
lighting in this scene is so good.
Yeah,
No, this movie is
you just
gorgeous.
headbutted a woman.
It's just
How could
how
he?
could you? I'm a woman. Well, he's not gonna fall for that again. He might as well just lead with acid.
I'm surprised. It was see if Penguin were in this scene, he would have said, "Only I give her a head."
Yes,
And he
he would have.
headbutted her. That's what he would
That would
say.
not have been going too far for this movie, given that when they first meet, he says just the pussy I've been looking for.
I sidestepped that while you were gone, and you just said it. Because I was like, I can get away with saying that. Like, it's just a cat, like
It's
Looney
just a
Tune.
cat. Yeah, that's why I said it. Whatever. I don't know.
I pussyfooted around it.
Do you think when she picks up the chair and she's using her whip that for a split second it's intentionally supposed to be like a lion tamer?
100%.
That's pretty great.
I've always liked how ditzy this woman is and how she dies.
It's really funny. And
Yeah.
Sam Hamm, even though he didn't get his script really made, one of his only contributions to this, which he tried to get in the first movie, is finally the huge plume of bats flying up from year one. He put that in both scripts, and it's finally in one.
We finally got it, yeah.
Now, you don't get Batman on a horse, which he also kept trying to get in.
This might also be a step in getting to a Batman that glides with his cape. That he has the glider in his cape in the sequence. I feel like that's probably a step towards that.
And it is goofy.
It is, but it's awesome.
The way it bounces around.
It makes me so sad that the Batman one is just a wingsuit and not this, because it should be this.
We had this amazing shot. We've just been talking about like atmosphere and pretty filmmaking. We talked over it, but a couple of scenes ago, when he's talking to Penguin, when Penguin explains he's the bad guy for no reason, you have I think the coolest Batman shot in the movie in that scene with all the like smog behind Batman.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I wish I'd brought it up while we were watching it, but that is an amazing moment. Senior Sticks, $2 super chat.
This is
If
an iconic image too. The
yeah,
two of them. Yeah.
if you had 9 lives, all cat powers, what would you do? Well,
Uh,
I wouldn't keep walking at bullets.
I would recreate the suicide sequence in Groundhog Day until I hit one life. Because why not?
That's so good. I think my answer is I would put on a costume and fight crime exactly 8 times. I think that's my answer. Pros and cons guy, $5 super chat. The Catwoman movie gives an explanation. It's more of a retcon. We got far enough.
We don't acknowledge that movie exists.
But we got far enough away from it. I'm not sure what it gave an explanation to.
Why does that one henchman have like a Native American like headgear thing?
He's just talking about the supernatural properties and all of that. Yes, it did. But it's like I never saw that, of course, as being in the same universe at all, especially because it's not at all stylized. But
then it's also weird because she pulls out a picture of Catwoman.
Yeah, there is a picture of this Catwoman there, so that's the one thing that kind of connects it and makes you go, okay, I guess it's supposed to be the same continuity.
Yeah.
Even though it looks more like just sort of an Easter egg.
The only good thing that movie gave us is Halle Berry's acceptance speech at the Razzies.
That is somehow not the first time I've heard you say that either.
Because it's great. I love when people show up to accept their Razzie. I think it's really funny. And
when they know what they were in, and they're like, "Yeah, that was Dog Crab."
Well, she's like, "F you, producers." Like that's part of her speech.
Yeah. So I love how the Penguin actually tries to kill Catwoman because she won't get in bed with him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that his
nuts.
way of killing her is hanging her with an umbrella. Like, what is she even stuck on?
I don't go to heaven. I think that might be my favorite Penguin line.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, but besides the one everybody always quotes that we talked about earlier,
just supposed to have been looking for her.
No. I played this city, like this stinking city, like a harp.
Well, okay. Well, we said that way earlier, so like that was the last thing, that Catwoman line that we said.
So this is her best look, and I want an action figure of it.
I was just about to say that.
With the hair out the back.
I kind of wish that the hair was out the back.
It's awesome.
Moving forward.
Yeah, I got no complaints about the costumes and production value and.
No, I mean, it's good visual storytelling. She literally stitched together her personality.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they were more so thinking sex appeal, but like that is there.
No, that's fair. There's a part of me, and like I get, I'm not really criticizing what I'm about to say, but there's a part of me that always wondered why she was so angry with Max Schreck. Like, obviously, it's terrible that he tried to kill her, but after all, she likes herself better as the person she is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that hadn't happened, she would not have found herself. And I mean, like, it's also this tragic thing where, I say she likes herself better. She likes herself at least when she's in the suit. She's obviously, like, really damaged.
It's like a full mental break, yeah. I didn't get
and is a crazy person and is having a hard time reconciling two sides of her personality, which is the split down the middle thing that she and Batman talk about at the end. But
I think being thrown out of a window is enough to want to kill somebody. That, or she just really wasn't a fan of the dead zone.
Well, I've seen this in other things where you'll have a bad guy that acknowledges, or a anti-hero or a revenge killer that like acknowledges that they need their nemesis to be who they are, and they kind of thank them for it and then try to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done that here.
Yeah. All of Keaton's acting in the sequence is perfect. This is like some of the best humanizing Batman and how he's playing him.
See, I used to complain that it felt like a totally different performance and he doesn't seem like really the same character, but I will admit that he seems to be having a better time on this project than he was the first. He seems more comfortable, not just in the outfit, but just in the role.
Yeah, well, I think it helps that, and I think I've heard you talk about this, Cap, where it's like when he does sequels, he doesn't want to come in and do the exact same performance.
And he and Burton both have that, right? So Burton doesn't like the idea of a film series. He comes in and he makes a different movie with
Hmm.
a couple of the same characters, to the point where, and some of this was also just his wanting to have carte blanche and do it his way this time. I He got rid of a lot of the production team from the first movie, which is part of why this one looks different.
Hmm.
And also one of the reasons that I respectfully disagree with you that this and say that this doesn't feel so much like '89. One of the reasons that the sorry the sets are different is because they filmed the first movie in the UK and they shot this one over here because it stopped being as cheap, because they did it in the UK in the first place because it was cheaper,
Hmm.
and then some of the tax breaks or whatever it was they didn't get anymore, and so they shot it here,
Hmm.
and they actually saved all the sets because they thought they were going to use them and they had to rebuild them anyway.
That's really funny. Here's Keaton's best moment as Batman.
Yeah, no, that's pretty great.
Ah, now I'm a little worried.
I don't know that what actually happens makes a great deal of sense, but
What, the way that his Batmobile like breaks off,
yeah,
or
because it's not the way you described it earlier. It isn't that he can't get the mechanism to work because he just flips a switch there. It's not like he kept trying to flip it.
well, he flips and it doesn't work, and he's like, "Uh-oh," and then he like flips it back and he kind of fiddles with it, and
So you
then
have
it
to go back and
goes.
look at it again because I thought he was fiddling with other stuff, like just still trying to
No,
get the.
no, he because he flip when he says, "Uh-oh," now I'm a little worried. He flips the thing that makes it do that, and it doesn't work, and he's like, "Uh-oh."
See, I thought it was just like I'm about to crash, and for momentarily he forgot that his car did that. That's how it always watched to me.
No, no, he flips that switch and it doesn't work, and then he fiddles with it, and then it goes.
I
Because as we know, Cap, technology even in the future doesn't work.
so I want to get ahead of this point real quick because we're about to uh, get it in a minute. I want to ask you a question, Austin.
Yeah.
Why does the Penguin why does the Penguin feel as much like he does that Max Schreck betrayed him? Like, what really is the betrayal?
Hmm.
Because he's like no, take me and not my son because it's me that you want to see buried to eyes up to raw sewage. It almost feels like something is missing because all he
Well, could it
really
maybe be that
does
he thinks
all he really
Mac?
does is
Mhm.
walk off when he knows they've both been beaten, or that like his campaign's been beaten, but like I don't really see that as a betrayal. What else was you gonna do? Like, we can't really salvage this.
Hmm. I guess just because it was all his plan and he kind of set him up with this. Whether it went the way he wanted to or not, I guess.
Yeah, I
I
guess
don't
it just
know.
he plays it like some kind of a double cross or something, and it's
Hmm.
not that dramatic.
Could he maybe think that Shrek was the one who did the voice thing? Or no, because he would know that was from Batman because he said it to him in the Batmobile. Never mind.
Yeah, that's true too. I I just had this thought: the trigger in the fish tank might
Mhm.
be one of the smartest ways to, I mean, like, oddly elaborate, but one of the oddest ways to hide the secret to the Batcave. Nobody would ever think to look there.
And even if you somehow figured out to open that button, why would you get in that torture device?
It's like, oh, it just opens this torture device. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you'd think that he just had like a really weird kink or something.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what?
That's why Vicky left. Have I told you about my what are those things called? Iron Maidens?
Yeah, there you go. Have I
I
told you about
told you
my
about
Iron
my
Maiden?
Iron Maiden
I
fetish.
I also think it's amusing in this moment that they're having this not long for this movie conversation about where they're gonna get the Batmobile serviced, and then about how Alfred let Vicky into the Batcave, which by the way I always saw as kind of fan service. It was like, fans had that criticism, like, why does Alfred let her? And so we have to acknowledge it in this movie. But they have this conversation about that. They're really like taking their time and just messing around. They don't know how long the speech is going to be. Like, they've got to get down into the Batcave and get this soundbite playing so that they can turn the city against the Penguin, and they are really taking their time. It's like they read the script and they know how long the speech is gonna be.
I like that Alfred is, I guess he's like hacking it. He's like at a DJ booth. And then, of course, as we all know, record scratching a CD is really funny.
That's not how CDs work.
If anything, you just scratched it.
Yeah, it just would stop playing. It just wouldn't play anymore.
It would be all that's how you know you're skipping.
That's how you know you're in a really unrealistic movie that you're not supposed to think too much about, is when the scratching a CD makes it start over. Oh, we talked over the line. I still don't remember what it is.
Well,
there it is. There it is.
Tomatoes and lettuce.
Eggs and tomatoes. Eggs and tomatoes. Throwing
eggs. They're throwing lettuce.
Why does somebody always bring eggs and tomatoes to a speech? Oh, you know what? Another good Penguin line is at the end when he's almost dead, and he pulls out the umbrella. He's gonna try to murder Batman, and he goes, "I got a cute one."
I also like the
that's pretty good.
What is it where he's like, I just want a glass of water. This black sludge spewing out of him.
I feel like the framing Batman thing.
That water is not deep enough for a man as fat as Penguin to dive headfirst into.
That's true. I feel like I've lost my train of thought now. After you said that, I can't remember what I was about to say. I can't remember. Okay, let me read some more super chats. Fella, $4.99. I love this film in the same way I do Ridley Scott's Legend. Dark fairy tales built on aesthetics, mood, and atmosphere.
Yep.
And I used to have a much harder time appreciating that. Again, I think it's just getting perspective away from it, having a lot more Batman movies, just, in general, of varying qualities. But like I've gotten more of like what I want, and so I'm more open to stuff that's like not what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. And I think I used to be even a little bit prudish about it, which is like, this is not how you're supposed to tell a story. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's exactly what Tim Burton wants to do. I mean, I don't think he wants to tell a traditional story. I think he's forced to work with a writer.
Yeah, it's why you need to watch Dr. Caligari Cap, because it's everything that he wants to do visually done better and with a better story.
See, when you said that earlier, I didn't even know he made a movie called that.
No, that's
Are you talking about the original?
The original,
I'm
so
confused right now. Oh, you're just saying
if you watch that, you'll be like, this is everything Tim Burton wishes.
I see.
So much of his style comes from that movie.
Okay, so you think he's directly influenced by that?
100%.
Okay. So for a split second, I thought you meant he remade that or something. I was really confused.
No, sorry. No, it's just that movie is like everything that, like, that's the kind of German expressionist sets with like the tilted buildings and stuff.
Yeah, and this is straight up German expressionism. That's right. It's too bad for that clown that he didn't pull a cute one. So I remember what I was going to say earlier.
He just killed Captain Clown.
Can I just say this Batcave kind of sucks?
Yeah.
Compared to the original, it's so much smaller. Even when you back off and you see them standing on the big like stalactites or whatever, it's too small.
There's also a gap. Like, what's Alfred gonna do? He's an old man.
Yeah, is he gonna jump it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm waiting for the definitive great Batmobile. We have it here. Batcave on film.
I mean, I think the one in Flash is kind of impressive. I just don't like that movie.
Yeah, that's fine.
I looked at I saw a behind the scenes featurette on that and how they built it, and they did it all practical, and it's really impressive. It's just that movie.
Bruce Wayne.
Unfortunate.
I'm Aladdin.
So I remember what I was going to say earlier, which is To have a big plot point about Batman getting framed, I don't think we maybe did enough with that.
No, we do not.
And it's odd that the police are really kind of missing from this whole movie. Besides Gordon at the beginning going, "Thanks for murdering all those criminals, Batman," and then the couple of cops firing at Penguin before he dives into, as you said, a shallow stream.
You should have just died right there.
That's it. That's your movie. Say, read a book.
We still got Catwoman. Batman still has to kill her. Movie can keep going.
Checkers the Inventor, $5 super chat. This movie has always captured my imagination somehow, despite not holding together as a story and having perplexing characters. Yeah, and I have the same thing. Like, I can't deny that even as a kid, I was captivated by the look of this movie. I think I was also just creeped out by it.
And here's a question for you, Cap.
I never went back and rewatched it very much, but I had the toys. Like, I loved all the iconography from this. We haven't even talked about the duck, which is one of the.
I love the duck.
Really, super iconic things from this movie. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say, could you make an argument, Cap, that a movie like this, where the story is not especially good, but it's very well put together and well made aesthetically and in terms of production and direction, that because the story is lacking, it maybe can give you more ideas because you're thinking about it in that way.
What do you mean gives you more ideas? You mean like as a kid playing with stuff?
Yeah. Or just like if you're a writer, like you look at a movie like this and it kind of fills your mind where you go, okay, but like what if you took what this movie looks like and you kind of tweak the story like in ways that we've kind of talked about during this commentary.
At the risk of going to the well I always go to, it's like Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers in that way.
Sure, yeah.
Where I look at all this really neat iconography that's kind of built on a lack of substance,
Mm-hmm.
and I go, what could you do with it to make it more complex and give characters some meat on the bone.
Mm-hmm. Bob the Hun just said you missed a super chat. I just went back. He gives $5. He says they let Penguin run for mayor even though he lived in the sewer for 33 years.
Oh, I did miss that, but I saw it in there. Sorry, I didn't read that.
No, it's okay. For 33 years and has no experience with politics or current events. That is correct.
Well, it's because Max Schreck owns the city, I guess. Like, there seems to be more corruption going on than anybody's talking about because he gets away with a lot. It's like, just because you're perceived as a philanthropist doesn't mean that you'd get away with something like taking a creepy penguin man from the sewers and having him run for mayor out of season, or like get the mayor ejected and then just because does he even? I'm confused on this point. Is he even running against anyone? Because there's talk about deposing the mayor,
it's the mayor from the beginning that we see because there's that.
But the thing is, they're out of election season. That's already happened. So he mentions, like, mayors can be impeached. He wouldn't be running against the mayor if he was impeached.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what's going on with that.
Well, there's a line earlier where he's like, oh, have you found somebody to run against me? Or it's something like that. I can't remember. And Watkins like, I don't know. And then he finds Penguin.
They don't actually play it out, so I guess it doesn't matter ultimately. But
yeah. No, but Penguin is kind of a good guy in the scene because he's breaking into a weird elite sex party.
Well, but then he'd be a bad guy again because if he had his way, he would be part of said sex party.
That's true. He's not breaking it up. He's taking part.
He's taking part. He's taking it over.
Any room for me and my duck?
And like I said, that he's just so vile that's part of what makes it difficult to feel anything for him, and also a lot of the comedy is supposed to come from that. It's also a little odd where you kind of have to look at each character from a different character's perspective, if this makes any sense, in finding them sympathetic at all. So with Selena Kyle, you're supposed to feel bad about her lot in life where she is in a man's world and she is oppressed by men, and she can only get like a lowly secretary position, even though it's not all that lowly because of who she works for. And I'm sure she makes bank, but whatever. We're not really supposed to think about that part of it, I guess. And and some of it is she doesn't have a backbone. She doesn't stand up for herself, of course. So you can argue like how much of it is like sexism in the workplace and like systemic sexism getting her down, and how much of it is just she's not an advocate for herself. But that is obviously supposed to be part of it with her. But then the Penguin is also supposed to be sympathetic, and he's one of the womanizers that treats her the most horribly.
That's where it becomes a Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy thing.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they don't fully team up. Like they team up for like a minute and then that's it. Like
That's true. Because that relationship was never going to work out.
Yeah. And I mean, the second Penguin realizes that he tries to kill her, because Catwoman's really just using him for her own ends too.
Yeah, that's right. Tobin Bell Pawns, $20 super chat, and sorry it took me so long to get to this, but thanks so much for the support. He says, I don't like any of the 490s Batman films. It's all very little substance to me. I'm happy people like Nolan and Reeves clearly get it and have... people like Nolan and Reeves clearly get it and have brought some class and weight to the character. I love without sacrificing style. And I'm curious to know what age he is, because a lot of people younger than me, of course, feel that way about these movies and have a hard time going back and getting into them. And I'm not saying I'm better than you because I'm older than you if I'm older than you. I'm just saying that I would probably also have that if I was born 15 years after I was born.
Yeah, and I mean, my thing with it is I think
you would never get those movies if you didn't have 89, is always kind of my refrain going back to that.
No, and I think these movies have style and not a ton of substance, and then the Nolan movies have substance and not as much style.
That's exactly right.
And then I think Reeves has kind of come in and blended them, which is why that's my kind of favorite take on Batman on film so far. It's what I've always wanted.
Yeah, is it fair if I were to say that, and again, I think maybe it just came too late in life for me, where I've already had so much Batman that I've already gotten really invested in stuff. Like, I think I can't call the Batman my favorite yet. Maybe someday I'll get there. I love the shot into the mouth. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it fair for me to say, Austin, that like it's not my favorite yet, but I think it is the most correct?
Yeah, I mean, you also don't have to agree with me. Like your favorite can be a different one too. Like that's my take on it.
I just feel like
your favorite should be Batman and Robin. It's okay, Cap.
And I think if I was 20, it would be.
Batman and Robin is objectively the best Batman movies. So. No, but then you can also look at this movie and say it's one of the best ones because they strapped a bunch of rockets to Penguin's backs.
That's where, like, if it's possible for this material to jump the shark, that's where it does. But it's amazing. Like,
yeah, no, it's so beautiful. That is the greatest thing this movie gave us pop culturally.
Austin, I still have the action figures.
Yes.
Of the Penguins.
Do the rockets shoot off?
Yes, they do. I do believe.
That's beautiful. No, that like going all the way back to being a kid is my favorite thing out of any of these four movies, is the image of an army of penguins with rockets strapped to their back. And they have like the little helmets for aiming. It's so funny. And that is just an Austin Powers gag.
And it's still crazy to me that they used real penguins for that.
What it makes the ending with Penguin's death way funnier, where those aren't real penguins.
Yeah, you can tell.
And they're suddenly like 4 feet tall.
The other thing that's funny about that too is they're clearly not even touching him, much less moving him. Again, it's a fairy tale. It's not to be taken seriously at all.
No, it's some of the funniest stuff like in any of these four movies, and it's I don't know, like I don't feel like I'm laughing at it. I feel like I'm laughing with them with stuff like that.
Well, yeah, because it's absurd in the first place. I mean,
Exactly.
that's where a lot of
They
the
get it.
comedy in this comes from. You know, and again, I don't mean to be like defeatist now, where I'm like, okay, I'm crumbling under the weight of all the people that love this movie, and now I'm conceding to the points that have been made to me for years and years now. Of again, this movie is like it's not really interested in real storytelling. It's just a bunch of ideas. It's just atmosphere. Go with it.
Mhm.
But like I'm still frustrated by the ways in which it's presented like a real story.
Yes.
But the more I see it, the more I'm feeling like it's almost like a 70-30 thing.
You love it for what works and you dislike what doesn't, I think is the way I look at all four of these movies.
Yeah.
I love that Batman's radar actually shows them as penguins with rockets on their back.
He just has really sophisticated technology.
He does, yeah.
Um, I had a list of questions when I did the off the cuff rewind for this, because when I was doing that show, I would always I would write like 4 pages of just questions I thought of as I was watching the movie. And I don't know if I brought this one up, but one of the big questions I've always had about this movie is, why is this woman a robot and what happened to her?
Well, this is the one with the dog, isn't it?
Does she have the dog?
Yeah, the one that picks up
Like,
the
why does she talk like that? Why is she partly catatonic? Like, what happened to this woman?
penguin killed her dog.
So wait, she's the John Wick of the Batman universe?
Yeah, or maybe Catwoman killed her dog. There we go.
Oh no, maybe youth culture killed her dog. Checkers the inventor.
Youth culture. No, I'm pretty sure. No, I think the dog's in her lap actually in that last shot.
Oh, okay, so it
I'll
wasn't
have to
Catwoman or youth
look closer
culture.
when we see her again.
Checkers the inventor, $2 super chat. Do you of Flash as canon to this movie?
No.
No, only in the easy multiverse way that they roped everything in, but that Batman is not 89 Batman, because
Or Returns Batman, yeah.
he lives in a world that, well, and I mean, they're the same guy.
No, I know. I just meant like if you were, yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, if Flash was canon to this, it would also be canon to 89. Because as much as I don't feel like this feels as much like that movie as you do, I'm not going to be absurd enough to say they don't count in the same universe.
No, I just meant in the way that, because I know that you don't think they feel exactly the same, so it's like it doesn't feel like 89, but it also doesn't feel like this. Like, not that they're completely separate.
Right.
Is all I meant. But my main thing with bringing Keaton back has always been, you can't just bring him back. It has to be that world.
It has to be that world.
And we didn't do that. Like, it feels like you divorced him away from a lot of what makes that take interesting.
No, it's so generic. He's got that suit and that car for no reason.
And they put no effort in trying to make it look like this. Like, he just fights like Arkham Batman.
So
But, like...
sorry, real quick. I've never had this thought before.
Yeah.
But, and this isn't like insightful or anything, but just production value stuff, so above and beyond in having like snow and water up against the window in the bat boat, like outside.
Yeah.
That goes so far in making it feel like he's not just on a soundstage.
Yeah. Well, and this movie in general with the snow, like...
They didn't have to do that. But look at that. It looks so real.
Yeah. I mean, they just made a good choice in setting this at Christmas, I think.
Well, and it's a good thematic choice too. Like, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but just and it's maybe obvious, but I'll mention it anyway. Just the idea that like it's I saw this described in a review today as an anti-Christmas movie, and that's correct, because like it's set at Christmas, but the idea is this is supposed to be the time where we see people most fulfill their real humanity, where they're giving and they're considerate and kind to people. And you're seeing the exact opposite of that with Max Schreck, who is pretending to be altruistic and a philanthropist. And then you have all these damaged characters that have been ruined by the actions of people who are all but Batman, ostensibly the kinds of people that would show their best colors at Christmas time.
No, that's a very good point. Yeah, and this is one of those movies where I kind of forget that it's a Christmas movie when I'm not watching it. So like I've never
Yeah.
even really thought like that hard on how it connects to Christmas because of that.
And that's
That's a good point.
also that's also one of the only couple of things that was kept from Sam Hamm's script, because Sam Hamm wrote a straight up Batman Christmas movie.
Oh, okay. I don't remember a script too much outside of some weird stuff like the
It's not
climax
memorable. It's not very good.
and Mr. Boniface or whatever Penguin's called at the beginning.
Yeah, Boniface.
Boniface, yeah. That whole thing's weird.
But that is a very like discover the true meaning of Christmas kind of script.
Oh.
It's like yeah it's all about like greed and the spirit of giving and all of that, which the first movie is supposed to be more about greed than it actually watches after the script is
Mhm.
kind of cut up to hell, and so it would have connected to that in that way, but it's just a lame story.
Yeah.
It culminates with a like treasure being
Treasure
found
hunt in the
under
Batcave.
the Batcave. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Senior $6 super chat, is Chief O'Hara in this? Is he a staple of Batman? No, he's
Uh,
not.
he is. He's called Commissioner Gordon.
No, that's not. Well, only in how dumb he is. I mean, their Commissioner Gordon looks a little bit like '60s Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah. No, he that's more so later. Like he gets dumber with every movie.
He does, but his look is, if not intentionally so, subconsciously, like or unintentionally, just looks patterned after the '60s version, because that's the only heavyset Gordon we'd had.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think he probably could have been like an all right Gordon. Like I think he's fine in '89. He just doesn't have enough to do.
I've seen Pat Hingle in a couple of other things. He's a decent actor.
Yeah. Same here. But then, like by the time you get to the Schumacher movies, like he's just really dumb.
Chewbacca's Lover, this is a good question. A $5 super chat. He says, thanks for all the support tonight, guys. Why do you
Yeah.
think they made Penguin so pervy? Are there any thematic things or character stuff they're doing with that? It's a very specific choice. Again, there's a weird comic relief that is coming from that, but I think as far as the actual, and also just gives him and Catwoman a clear conflict, like I said, which I think is at odds with either of them being sympathetic to the audience. But Austin had a good point in, at least they leave each other very quickly, where like they don't stay friends at all, and they're never really friends in the first place. But I think if there's anything to be said about the character, it's that he's like sexually frustrated because
That's what I was gonna say. Like he didn't fully grow up because he's been kind of repressed.
Yeah, he didn't grow up. He's outcast. He's never been able to be with women. He's only been a circus freak. So he's just been kind of like gawked at by people. Which actually makes his operating out of a zoo even more, a little bit layered.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
When the only woman he knows in his life is that dog woman, and she's a robot, as you said.
It's hard not to, and that was one of the things that when I was younger, I always felt made this feel kind of mean spirited, and like this was, of course, a different time where we went in that direction with a lot of stuff, maybe not that far, but with a lot of stuff you might not have expected, just because like the men writing it seemed to be kind of getting off on being able to get that kind of stuff in a script. And it reads that way a little bit with this.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think there is a read there. It's just, as we've kind of talked about, the writing isn't entirely up to par. We don't find it fully.
Once again,
see, one of the
lighting,
parts
so
she
good.
gets shot is right here.
Yeah, that's not a die.
Yes. The main thing to learn from the sequence is that Walken's an awful shot.
He just. I wonder if it was directed that way, where it's like we got to be ambiguous about this, so don't make it look like a kill shot, even though she's saying she's dying. Like, and then the question is she buying into what Austin thinks is a not real mythology, or is she just kind of going with it as a motif herself?
I've always just seen it as she's going with a motif. And somebody asked about this kiss thing, because this is
weird.
It's the one thing that you can go, but look, she survives this somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I've always just seen it as she zaps him and isn't actually zapped in this, but that is the big thing. Oh, and you can like see her kind of pull away actually in that back off shot.
Okay, but regardless of all of that, I just have to point out that
Mhm.
Burton's intent and Waters' intent with the original script is she dies in the scene.
Oh, okay.
I just got to throw that out there, and I don't mean to say that what a writer intended versus what's on the screen counts, because clearly she lives at the end, but they shot that 2 weeks before it came out. That wasn't supposed to be in the movie.
She was supposed to be dead.
She's supposed to be dead.
That is a little weird. That
Which is interesting because then it doesn't set the precedent of one villain lives and one villain dies.
Yeah. That is a little strange in that, like, did they have to do like a pickup shot to have his dead corpse because she's not there?
Yeah.
But then his reactions also that she isn't there, but that can also be reshot.
Well, and if not reshot, just re-edited. Like maybe they had a
Very
corpse
true.
and they cut it out. We don't know.
Yeah.
You could cut around it. He picked the cute one. Christian Ogden, $1.99. A penguin shouldn't be the main villain of a movie. I mean, I think it's easy to say that if you don't find this version of the character compelling and you're impressed with what we did with the Batman.
I also think it's probably just easier to say that now because I feel like Penguin in the hierarchy of Batman villains has shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reason he's in this movie is because Warner saw him at, like, the studio execs, the big wigs that don't know anything, saw him as the next most popular villain after the Joker, and even in 1992, that is patently false. Like, when I'm a kid, the Penguin is not as big as, like, 3 or 4 other villains in front of him.
But I do feel like he's up there. Like, yeah, maybe not second.
He's up there, but not over Riddler or Two-Face.
Yeah. No, that is correct.
But
Two-Face, you can also argue, Cap, because he's not been adapted yet. Like that, he's like the thing that 66 skips, so they're probably also keeping that in mind. So they're probably thinking the 4 big Batman villains are just the ones in the 60s movie.
Yeah, which is disappointing because one of the things Sam Hamm did was continue forward with Harvey Dent.
Mm-hmm. It does suck that he's not in this movie.
It really does. Back to, just real quick to the Robin thing. I also wonder why those guys were so down on the idea of having that character in this movie. And don't get me wrong, like, I don't know how well a Robin would gel with Tim Burton's Batman, and like, immediately when you give him a sidekick, he loses what Tim Burton himself loves about this character. So I get why he would be adverse to doing that. But given that this is supposed to be all about human beings that revert to animal instincts and kind of become animal people, you could also have that with Robin and do like a more, and maybe it doesn't fit this material, but do a more sort of positive thing with it where it's like, well, what's the more positive flip of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just kind of fits into, there's just a bunch of creatives that I think look down on Robin as a concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Base, $5 super chat. You're just jealous because I'm a genuine freak and you have to wear a mask. Favorite line. Yeah, and I just think, again, Batman's response to that is so curious. Where it's like, yeah, you know what, you might be onto something there.
His eyes bug out like Selena pulling a gun on him.
It's odd listening to Tim Burton talk about this movie because he's real, kind of charitable to the studio the way he talks about it, and kind of diplomatic, where he acts like, or maybe it's to save face for himself. I'm not sure which, because there are things that we know for a fact were decided before he came on that he acts like he had more of a say in, and is like, oh no, I really wanted to do Penguin once I realized that I could come up with an angle in what he calls a psychological profile. It's like, nah, you were stuck with him because the studio insisted. And so
Yeah.
yeah, you came up with something finally. But I think it's kind of interesting the way he talks about it.
Mm. Yeah, no, I am interested in what his version of a third movie would have looked like,
Yeah, me too.
and like how he would have done the Riddler.
Dan's Den, I just can't see Marlon Wayans as Robin. No, I have that too. And
Yes.
that's who was going to play him. And he was actually full on cast. And I read today, I'd never heard this before. Not only did they cast a Robin, because Burton insisted on a black man playing Robin, which I think actually goes back to Sam Hamm's '89 script. I think
it does.
I think there's supposed to be a black kid there too.
They carry it into the sequel comic he did too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which I'm gonna make us review at some point.
Cool, yeah. One,
because I don't love it, but I'm curious to talk about it finally. I just never have. And the sequel is coming out right now, and I haven't started reading that yet. But
oh look, project consultant Bob Kane.
Yep, I'm sure he showed up to set a couple times. And...
Well, we can be sure that he definitely did it with people. He just didn't credit them.
No, that's exactly what happened. I don't remember what we were talking about.
But yeah, in terms of how this franchise moved along, I am definitely sad we didn't get to see whatever Burton would have done next, because I would have taken that over what Schumacher did. I think Schumacher could have made a great Batman movie.
Well, and
but you also have the studio thing.
I'm
like
to
I
a
would have
place
hit
where I
Burton
blame
too.
the studio for everything that didn't work with these, or nearly everything. Now, could Schumacher have still maybe made like a less watered down, like more interesting story driven thing with the studio mandate with Batman Forever? Yeah, probably, probably. But when he says, I want to, and we'll talk about this later when you and I finally do Batman Forever for the 115th time. I've talked about that. But when he says, I just wanted to adapt Year One and they told me no, I have so much respect for that.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really begrudge him for making what the studio asked him to make. And I've always said that with Batman and Robin, but I feel that way about Batman Forever too. I also like that movie a lot more than you do.
Yeah, that'll be a commentary that's just me being like, oh my God, shut up. Not to you, but to the movie.
We'll make that as interesting as we possibly can, because I won't have a lot of defenses for your criticisms of that movie. Like, a lot of that is also
a lot of it's just subjective, because it'll be like, you'll be like, I like Jim Carrey, and I'll be like, this movie is like 80% just two morons mugging at each other.
No, it is. Yeah.
And it's like, whether you like that or not, you know what I mean?
Well, okay, I'm gonna make an. We're not in that movie, but can I make an argument about that real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I said I won't have a defense. Here's my defense. My defense is weirdly, and as you said, subjective. Actually, the same thing that a lot of people have with this movie. It's just about the look and some of the casting choices.
Oh yeah, well, like I said earlier,
more than it is anything else.
All four movies 100% rely on how well the villains work for you, and they're almost all based on performance.
Yeah. And I mean,
actually, not almost all based on performance, really.
I can't even say that it entirely holds up as well. I can't even say as well. I can't even say that movie really holds up so much as I just turn into a 12-year-old again every time I watch it. You know what I mean? Like I go back
Yeah.
to the brain I had at that point. That was a big summer for me.
Yeah, for sure. It's just so sad that the next time we'll see this Batmobile in a movie is Looney Tunes back in action.
Well, since we're in the credits, why don't we go ahead and go ahead and just get right because like I said, I've talked about this movie a lot. Why don't
Yeah,
we just go ahead and get right to Tweet Length reviews,
absolutely.
if you don't mind? And I will pull up Patreon if you will pull up Discord. And we won't have as much for this one as we might have otherwise because I was already doing tweet length reviews when I did the off the cuff rewind for this a couple years ago. So some of the people that did reviews then won't do them again.
Mhm.
I am sure.
Yeah, it was only 4 on Discord.
Okay, I've got 3 on Patreon. So
All right, so we got a handful.
let's go back and forth then.
We got enough to unite all of them.
Why don't you start since you've got 4,
Okay.
and we'll just go back and forth.
Tom says, "What's not to love? Danny DeVito dose a wonderful reenactment of the Mike Tyson Evander Holyfield fight, and a big rubber duck that would make Ernie jealous. I give this wonderful film a supervillain." Also, it's not a rubber duck.
No, it's not rubber. I guess he just really wanted to get that Sesame Street reference in for some reason.
Yep.
Joshua Davis.
He really did not like this movie, apparently.
Clearly, yeah. Captain Logan added a maximum length disclaimer. What have my sins brought? He's the guy that gave us kind of an analysis last time. That is not the reason I said that. And I'm standing by that. It has grown to be my favorite of the 4 Burton Schumacher films. I think it has the strongest artistic passion behind it with the least amount of corporate interest meddling. And again, I would go as far as to say it's even like a like it watches now like almost a counterculture movie or like an anti-establishment thing where it's like
Sure.
I'm gonna show Hollywood how to make a not blockbuster.
When I think that's why I came away liking it more than 89 this time is that's the stuff I latch onto, and then like I said earlier, like the writing stuff in all 4 is below par. So like it really just comes down to that at the end of the day.
And then he says, I would normally say very high superhero, but since it's this crowd, I will plant my flag in the sand and say legend. Okay, go ahead and give us another one, Austin.
MattBat68. Do the story and characters in this movie make any sense? Hell no. Is it still super entertaining despite that? Hell yeah. A nostalgic guilty pleasure. Rating hero.
I gotta say, obviously, we're talking a lot because we had to do a rewind and try to get some analysis in and stuff. But like, it was a lot of fun to watch with you.
Oh well, thank you very much.
I find this is always a pretty decent crowd movie. Like even if you're watching it with people that don't like it, there's always like fun things to laugh with or at or however you want to put it. Like
Exactly, yeah.
Chewbacca's Lover, not a great Batman movie or story, but I like the atmosphere and visuals. There's the consensus. I actually like what all the 90s Batman movies look like. I find it entertaining, even though Batman Forever is better and deserves more credit. I guess hero.
Does it though? We'll get there one day. Doolittle. I actually like this film, warts and all. This should not be the normal run of things, but I had a blast with it personally. Hero.
That's kind of where we landed, the both of us, I think. Is like, if this was all you got, at some point you'd be like, can we kind of maybe go back and look at the source material again?
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe this is one of those things where you get one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you said it'd be really interesting to see what a third one would look like. I mean, it would have been interesting. I don't know what the future trajectory would have been like after that.
And when I say that, it's only because I don't like Forever. So it's like I would take that over Forever, but not necessarily over what came after the original 4.
Sadiq, this movie looks and sounds really nice, but boy, is it stupid. Super villain rating.
Oh.
There's a time where I would have said that.
That is true.
I'm getting old and my standards are in the floor, so that time has passed. But do you have one more?
Yeah, this is the last one. This is from John, subject 879. He says, nonsensical and mean-spirited. Nothing in this movie really works for me. Rating villain. And once again, John shows how incorrect and wrong he is at everything in life.
Wow, but see, I can't say that because that used to be my exact review of this, and I've lightened up on it a little bit. I'm not saying that John has to, but I have
No,
tightened
I
up
know.
a little bit.
I just like making fun of John.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and do our ratings real quick. I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
I was make you go first. I'll go first this time. There's a time where I would have said supervillain on this. So the very bottom is Nemesis, and then it's supervillain, and then after that it's hero, which is like middle of the road. I guess that's what I have to go for because I can't go for a negative rating at this point. Um, and I think it's also important, I never want to say like the movie is good or the story is good just because it's influential, but I also think it's important to note, like I said, some of this is weirdly ahead of its time, and it's important to note how few superhero movies we have at this point,
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
as experimental as this is. But yeah, I'm gonna go straight up hero. I feel like it would be too much of a jump for me to go to uh superhero at this point, but I will give it the middle of the road rating.
I've gone back and forth all this commentary about where I land on this because I feel like just us chatting and having fun talking about it, I was like, I want to go superhero, but at the same time, I feel like I probably should stick with hero. So
Yeah.
I will, but I had a great time watching this. That's probably where it actually belongs.
Do you imagine you would give it? And I mean, it's hard to say without going back and doing it. But do you imagine you would give it an 89 the same rating?
Well, 100%. I think I would probably give the same rating to 89 in Returns and Batman and Robin, and the only one that goes slightly under would be Forever,
Forever.
but
Yeah.
they're all kind of in the same ballpark for me.
Well, and what's complicated about it for me is this being a show with the rewind header. I'm always looking at storytelling first, but you gotta look at and it's all still subjective to some degree anyway, but like that's the criteria that comes at the front. So I don't feel like with anything I would want to go, well, this is a legend because it looks great even if the story makes no sense. So like I
Well, and
wouldn't.
I think that's also the hard part is I'm like, okay, the story part brings it down to hero, but like
Yeah, but
the
then what is
performances are so good
but
and
also
like
what's it after in the first place is the
yeah, and the production's so good that like I
yeah.
want to bump it up superhero, but I'm like at the same time, yeah, I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I can't help but wonder if it would, maybe this is a crazy thing to say, if it would bump up a notch in our book if Tim Burton had been able to make this completely unfettered and like no, or would it just be completely incomprehensible?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if nobody else was involved in the actual plotting of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because it might just be characters kind of wandering around for 2 hours. Like I don't know.
Mm,
Would there be a plot at all? But then you look at these things on their own terms. If he wants to tell a Batman, if he wants to do a Batman thing that's just like characters and how they make you feel, is it possible to make that movie without really having a plot, without really
mhm,
telling a story? Maybe, I don't know.
mhm. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm open to anything.
No, and with this, and then with Raimi, with some of the Spider-Man stuff,
Yeah,
I latch on to a lot of their influences, where it's like, oh, like I can see so much like Universal horror in what both of them are doing. So then it's
yeah.
like, like I really appreciate some of that stuff. But
I
I
want to
don't know.
just double check and make sure I didn't miss any super chats,
Yeah,
but
100%.
I do believe I got them all. Let me know real quick, folks, if I did miss any, and tell me who it was. But I think I got them all. Um, you'll have a couple minutes,
Yeah, I'm
as
going
we're
through. I don't see. You mentioned the fellow one about. Yeah, I think you did about Ridley Scott's Legend.
Yeah, I mentioned that one. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
yeah. No, I think we got all of them.
I Well, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. This was a really fun one to finally sit down and do with Austin, because Austin and I have never talked about this movie. Like, I wasn't even totally sure, where you landed on this. So that was.
No, I think the only conversations we've ever had about
And you
these
said you
is,
kind of liked it, but I didn't really know anything beyond that. So
yeah, I think the only thing we've ever really said is, I've said before to you that to me, 89 and Returns are just kind of like there, like they're just the same thing, and you're always like, no, it's not. But it was like I put a pin in it because we can talk about it
yeah,
later because we're gonna do
absolutely.
this. But it was all building to this, really.
Yeah, and I see your perspective and how you got there. I just can't get there myself.
Yeah, and I think part of that is just that I grew up with both of them together. Like it's that thing where, like, I grew up with Ghostbusters 1 and 2 together, so like they are peas in a pod.
And I did have
And
that perspective of going to the theater and being really surprised by it. Like, that's not what I was expecting. I mean, I was 8 when this came out,
mhm.
and I
it's
went
a,
and
it's a
saw it.
thing that
Just
everything will have eventually. We're seeing it with the prequels now with Star Wars. We will see it with the sequels, where kids will grow up with it, and it is all just part of it.
yeah, the prequels more than the sequels. I think it's more likely that a lot of parents just won't even bother showing their kids those movies.
Yeah, maybe in that case. I mean, parents show kids the prequels.
You'll have a kid at 12, like, uh, going around on Disney Plus going, wait a minute, they made this many Star Wars movies?
Hmm.
Why did my parents never tell me about these? And they go, oh, that's why.
No, they'll be like, "That was so cool. I love when nothing happened."
Okay, so let me go ahead and reveal what we're doing next time. And I'm having to take a couple week hiatus, so it'll be at least 3 weeks before you see the next rewind commentary.
I actually completely forgot what we were doing next, and then it like clued in on me. I was like, "Oh, that's right."
It is so we had a requested review, and it is the '90s Zorro movie. Is that Mask of Zorro?
Mask of Zorro, yeah.
Yeah, which is a near masterpiece. I've talked about that before.
And I
Uh,
finally watched it like a few weeks ago.
And that's actually another movie that I have a video on from not too long ago, although I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago that Vince and I did a commentary on that.
I think it's a
Uh,
while ago now, yeah.
so yes, another movie that I already have a commentary for on the channel, but for the Superhero Rewind commentary project, we're doing new commentaries on every single superhero movie, so we had to get to it eventually, and that was a requested one on the $30 tier, so that's why we're tackling that. And
Hmm.
quick plug for that: if you would like to request an upcoming very soon, soon-ish. Rewind commentary. The $30 tier makes that possible. It won't be like waiting months and months for the request tier because there's not as long of a of
Yeah, I think
I
that's the
can't wait.
only.
There's not as
Uh,
long of a queue. There's a couple on the list right now.
oh, okay. I thought that was the only rewind request we've had. Okay,
I'm not gonna take the time to check right now, but I think there's a couple things on that list.
interesting.
Yeah. Well,
But the main
there's
difference
one thing I
between
can't
your
decide if it
old
counts.
commentary.
So
Oh,
we might.
sorry. Go ahead.
There's one thing that I can't decide if it counts. So we might have to do it on the request instead of here. But anyway,
Oh yeah, we'll talk about it after.
yeah.
The main difference between our commentary on Zoro and your old one, though, Cap, will be that it will be a lot of me going, "How did I not grow up with this
I
movie?"
I know. Yeah, you finally look because you watched that when you were trying to put together your list for the top 100, which also we will try to finally start getting to sometime in the next couple of months, hopefully.
Mhm,
I'm still working on my list. I haven't. There's some movies I want to rewatch, and I just have not had time to do that because I've been so busy with stuff.
mhm. Yeah, and there's stuff that I didn't mean to rewatch for it that I ended up doing that like completely shifted where they are on my list.
Yeah, I wish I had months to just go back through a bunch of stuff, especially like MCU. I haven't watched in a long time, and
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened. Is
I'm gonna have a skewed list probably from what
I
now that
was
I
at
think
my
back.
mom's. I had to dog sit for her for a weekend and then for a week, but there was only 3 days between them. And in the meantime, I was like, I might as well just stay here while I'm waiting. And my mom was like, "Oh, let's rewatch some of these Marvel movies," and we did that.
That's nice for you.
Yeah. Well, she's very nostalgic to the pandemic because I was staying. I like went to her house during the pandemic because she's like, "Hey, I have a pool. Do you want to just come like quarantine here?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And we went through like the entire MCU, and she's like very nostalgic about that. She talks about it a lot.
Aw, that's cool. I mean, it means you probably have to watch some movies you don't like, but for
Well,
our
I was
list,
very
it's
lucky because she was like, "I feel like I've seen Ragnarok too many times. Let's skip it." And I don't want to watch
you're like,
Captain Marvel,
yes.
but outside of that, let's rewatch the MCU.
There's still some not great things in there, but
Yeah. James Egan is like really honest that we got to do Watchmen.
yeah, and I'm wanting to do that this year because it's an anniversary year, and he's right. I mean, we've never done a commentary on
We
it.
should definitely put it on the short list.
We should put it on the short list. I feel like if we put it on a poll, it would probably just win outright because I think a lot of people feel that way about it. Where it's like, how do you not have a commentary on that yet? So I
And then
think at
what
the
cut do we do?
let's have that conversation off camera because I
Yeah.
can go real back and forth on it. Well, okay, I'll say real quick. I think the right answer is director's cut. I
Okay.
think that's the right answer because a not everybody has the ultimate cut. The director's cut is a little bit easier to get your hands on. B, it's probably still enough time to say most of what we would want to say. And C, you got to sit through Black Freighter, and there's not much besides Black Freighter that's added into that except for the bookends with the Bernards. I think that's about all that's really put back in.
Hmm.
You can
Yeah, I've
live
never
without
seen the
that.
ultimate cut, and my big thing is I want to read the book before
Same here.
we do that.
No, I would need a little bit of prep time with that. Same thing with like Dark Knight Returns. You know, I want to reread that before we talked about the movie.
Yeah, and Dark Knight Returns I think is close enough of an adaptation. Like I have a lot of issues with how they change things in the Watchmen book, and I want to be like fully like here's exactly it as opposed to just well here's what I remember.
Well, that's true. I would have a different reason. For me, it's Dark Knight Returns never sticks with me,
Yeah,
and I would just feel
fair
the need
enough.
to reread it before I watch that. Whereas you're right with Watchmen, it's reminding yourself of the things that that changed and also that's all that's an emphasis thing too where there's places where yeah it's there but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to say something stupid and kind of get a detail wrong or something. One complaining about issues with characterization.
That'll be really interesting to revisit because I watched it again this year for the first time in a lot of years, and I'm sad to say I didn't like it as well as I used to.
And
Like
James Egan also says that you have to force me to watch the TV show, which you're
yeah,
gonna need
I'm not gonna do that.
a lot of guns if you want to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. I know he really dislikes that, and I've said my piece on that. I don't feel the need to revisit that. I liked that show. We did a long spoiler cast. I don't really feel the need to revisit that.
Yeah.
It's TV and not movie, so I don't have to do that here. But anyway, so as always, I want to thank our patrons, but especially our Super Rewind producers. And one of the perks that you get being a producer is you get your name read at the end of every video with Superhero Rewind in the title, including these commentaries and our upcoming top 100 series that we're going to do again, hopefully in the middle of the summer, if not at the beginning of the fall. We've got Breezy Hemi, Jesse Surtees, Matt Bat 68, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Hot Soup, Joe Turner, Joe Gira, John Matthew McLean, Michael Martin, Stone Gasman, John, Subject 879, Super Billy, The Amalgamation, Thomas Edgehill, Adam March, Damon Begay, Jacob Schneider, Kareem Roberts, Matthew Brody, Miguel Rodriguez, This Guy the Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, Wendell Jones. Oh, sorry, and Wendell Jones. I've now resolved the chord. Once again, thanks a lot for being here, folks. Well, Austin, I hope we got enough said about Batman Returns. That
Yeah. No, I think so. I think that was a lot of fun. It was good watching it with you.
that was one I was worried about because I was like, God, I had so much to say about this last time I did an addendum on it. Like, do I really need to talk about this again? But this you know, format we're doing kind of requires us to go back to it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best. I feel like I brought up some things I haven't talked about.
When I went into it being like, okay, I'm probably going to be more positive and I'm going to be like, I like this aspect, and you'll be like, no. So that's not really how it went. It was more fun.
I mean, not that we have to agree on everything, but
I mean, kind of.
oh,
It is in
really?
my contract on being on the channel that you can only disagree with me once every 3 months. So
God, why did you have to put that contract in a language I don't speak? Like,
I don't know. That's the only way we could work together.
I can't believe I signed that Portuguese. Uh, like, you don't even speak Portuguese. I don't know who you got that he's like, I just use Google Translate. I don't.
Well,
It
clearly I
doesn't.
used a Portuguese lawyer.
Damn you and your Portuguese lawyer.
I have an army of them.
All right, we're
This is
getting
going off
hilarious.
weird. Let's end this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's. Nothing against the Portuguese lawyers in the audience. In the meantime, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We sure appreciate you. I was Captain Logan. This was Austin the Day Ghost. Hope you had a
See
good
you,
time.
fuck.
We certainly did, and we'll see you again in hopefully 2 or 3 weeks. Bye, everybody.